This is cell. Like all cells, existing cell. By extension, all cells were ultimately born from one cell. A single organism, alone on planet Earth, perhaps alone in the universe. About 4 billion years ago, 1 became 2, 2 became 4, then 8, 16, 32. The rhythm of the dividing pair.
There are some people that have a career in one act. Some people have a career in 2. Alex Garland has had 3. In 1996, Alex Garland released a novel called The Beach. The novel was hailed as a big success and got Garland called a key voice of Generation X. His subsequent novel, The Tesseract, was not met with the same praise. Garland moved on from writing novels and decided to try screenwriting. 2002, at a time when there was a lull in the creation of zombie movies, before the current boom, Garland wrote and Danny Boyle directed 28 Days Later.
Hey, did you hear that? Hey, did you hear that? You know what?
Right, I've done it. Dad?
Jesus Christ! Oh, no!
This movie cemented the fast zombies trope and starred a young Cillian Murphy. Another collaboration with Cillian Murphy and Danny Boyle came in 2017, Sunshine. The third act of Alex Garland's career has been directing his own films.
No. Stop. No, don't do that. Don't do that. You don't have to do that. What are you doing?
I told you you're wasting your time talking to her. However, you would not be wasting your time if you were dancing with her.
He made his directorial debut in 2014 with Ex Machina. The film was based on his own story, and he wrote the screenplay. While making it, a producer on Ex Machina read the novel Annihilation by Jeff VanderMeer. He passed it on to Alex as their next project. Tonight we're talking about Alex Garland's 2018 science fiction movie, Annihilation. Annihilation is based on Jeff VanderMeer's 2014 novel that came to him in a dream. The dream occurred after a hike through St. Mark's National Wildlife Refuge in North Florida. In the novel, this area has been closed off from the general public and called Area X. 11 expeditions have taken place, fraught with death, disappearances, and cancer. A biologist's husband was the first one to come back from an expedition, but does not remember how he came back. This novel is the story of the 12th expedition. 4 women, biologist, anthropologist, psychologist, and a surveyor go into Area X. VanderMeer's work has been part of a movement called New Weird. However, Annihilation was the first mainstream success that he found. It would be hard to adapt it into a straightforward screenplay, so Alex Garland sought VanderMeer's permission to adapt the atmosphere. The film keeps the strange, ambiguous, and open-ended nature of the writing. VanderMeer's novel does not give the characters names. The novel is told from the perspective of the biologist, as if from journal entries. Alex names the biologist, now a cellular biologist, and former army soldier, a soldier scientist, Lena, who is played excellently as always by Natalie Portman. Her husband Kane, also a soldier, is played by Oscar Isaac. Jennifer Jason Leigh is a psychologist, Dr. Ventress. Gina Rodriguez plays Anya, a paramedic. Tessa Thompson is Josie Raddick, a physicist. And Tuba Novotny plays a geomorphologist named Cass Shepard.
We should go back, yes, but it took us, 6 days to get here? And the coast is 2 days away.
You're saying that we get out by going deeper in?
Yeah, if you like, yeah.
Like? No, I don't like. This isn't some tactic to get us to the lighthouse, is it?
I believe that the coast is the best route out.
Each of these women, as Cass put it, are damaged goods in some way. They either alone have experienced unimaginable loss or exhibit self-destructive behavior like cutting.
I think as she was dying, part of her mind became part of the creature that was killing her. Imagine dying frightened and in pain and having that as the only part of you which survives. I wouldn't like that at all.
And Alex Garland was fascinated by exploring the self-destruction that we as humans are constantly engaging in. There are some acts of literal physical self-destruction, like cancer or suicide, and then psychological self-destruction, which is what Garland was most interested in. Area X from the novel, still in North Florida, is redefined as the Shimmer. The Shimmer mutates everything inside of it, from light to sound to your very cells. The film starts with a lesson Lena is giving in the classroom. We see a cell splitting, and Lena reveals that these are cells from a tumor. Cancer in the cells are a physical manifestation of self-destruction.
What's inside you?
It's not like us. It's unlike us. I don't know what it wants. Or if it wants. But it will grow.
The Shimmer's mutation is like a prism. Everything is refracted inside of it. Without self-destruction, we can't become something new. This is the idea that Alex Garland took into Annihilation.
What did it want?
I don't think it wanted anything.
But it attacked you.
It mirrored me. I attacked it. I'm not sure it even knew I was there.
It came here for a reason. It was mutating our environment. It was destroying everything.
It wasn't destroying. It was changing everything.
Anyway, before I introduce the panel, please like this video and subscribe to the Movie Night Extravaganza YouTube channel. Hit that bell to get notified whenever we're streaming. Also, we are now monetized, so if you have any pressing questions during this live stream, send us a super chat, which helps me keep the show running, and which I am obligated by international law, human rights law, to answer. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Movie Night Extra. All of our after parties are on there forever. Okay, let me introduce the panel. Conan Neutron, host of Protonic Reversal, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza, and frontman for Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends, neutronfriends.bandcamp.com. J. Andrew World, illustrator, book cover artist, artist for Give Them an Argument, co-host for Movie Night Extravaganza, and Bad Takes. Kristina Oakes, this Barbie is streaming on Twitch, twitch.tv/Cosmopolitics, Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky at Cosmopolitics. Send her some subs on Twitch. KT Baldassaro is an actress, director, and writer who wrote and co-directed and also starred in Girl in the Basement, along with appearing in quite a few horror movies. She's also voice acting in the scripted podcast series, The Starwell Foundation, an audio drama set in the city of superheroes wherever podcasts are listened to. I, of course, am your host and local lighthouse keeper covered in mutated fungus, Forrest Miller. Let's shimmer, baby.
That's right. I'm ready. The Crystal Plant Lighthouse Mojo Jojo Dennison over here. Woo woo!
Yo, I was saying this, before we started, but I really think the Shimmer improved North Florida.
Yeah, North Florida is probably one of the less odious sections of Florida. We'd like to welcome our Florida listeners, by the way. But yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
South Florida's worse, but
South Florida.
That's because the people who actually are from Florida live there, and the people who like everybody we hate in Florida is not from Florida.
Yeah, a lot of them are from Cuba.
But that said, if we're going to make a culturally insensitive regional humor, then yes, it was a definite improvement to Shimmer up on Florida.
Well, the Shimmer's woke. You know what I mean? The Shimmer's coming.
DeSantis is already launching ads against it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
What's so funny about Annihilation, the setting in the film, versus Annihilation, the setting in the book, is exactly that. Annihilation, the film, seems subtropic, seems Floridian, seems swampy. It is so distinctly Lovecraftian in the book that I couldn't help but feel like we were in a New England coastal situation. So, like, this interesting.
And the irony to that is that the movie was actually filmed in England. They filmed it in like the swampiest part of England, like in the bogs, rather than filming it in actual Florida, which is where Jeff VanderMeer, shout out to his Lovecraftian style of writing, but he had taken this walk, like this 14-mile hike up to this lighthouse on a state park or whatever in Florida. He did it every day for months, and then had this insane dream where everything was kind of blending together in this nightmarish way, and then wrote a book about that. And then Alex Garland's like, well, why don't we just film this in England?
That's it's like
because if it's transformed, why not? Yeah.
Well, it's like the Simpsons say, if you want a cow, you actually need a horse. If you need a horse, you got to tape a bunch of cats together. Nothing should be exactly what it is.
It is kind of wild though to think about. Sorry, Andy, but when we think of like this type of sci-fi or horror, it's hard not to think of good old HP, huh? Like and henceforth New England, which talk about a guy that put Rhode Island on the map.
That's what I say. That many people.
It's there. He's got to get the magnifying glass to see it. Sorry, go ahead.
When you're reading a Lovecraft novel, you should remember that it's like, oh my God, the Eldritch horror. Like that's the accent of the characters in these novels.
Yeah, they talk like my relatives.
Yeah. Well, it's the same with Stephen King, right? Like Stephen King, everybody's in fucking Maine. Like not every book he's written, obviously, but like that's where he's writing from. So it's hard not to imagine like every Stephen King fucking novel that I've read. Like it's hard not to imagine everyone's kind of just like an older man in Maine, like a wasp. That's just like
you can't get there from here.
There's a clown in the sewer.
There's a clown in the sewer. There's that show from a couple years ago. What was it called again? The Stephen King show, Castle Rock, right?
Castle Rock.
Oh yeah, Castle
Rock.
Filmed in Orange, Massachusetts.
Pretty darn good. Like really leaned into that as well. Which, by the way, incredible performance by Lizzie Kaplan in the second season as a young Misery Chastain. Which I was like, I don't know why they're doing this. There's no reason to do this. I don't know why you would do this. She made it work, and it was pretty incredible. But I feel like nobody watched that show, unfortunately.
Especially in season 2, it really kind of jumped in a bunch of weird directions.
Yeah.
But
there is one of the best performances about dementia I've ever seen on anything.
It's also interesting that like I feel like Lovecraft, some of his stuff kind of has gotten like reappropriated. Like there was the Jordan Peele series they kind of did.
Lovecraft Country, which is based off of the book, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Books. There's a book. I know. I don't know if there's.
So it's interesting that like all of these authors, their work gets constantly like appropriated and reappropriated until like the settings have completely changed, and like their place in our consciousness, I guess, has changed, right? Because Lovecraft's kind of famous for being a little on the racist side with some of his quotes. And
I think you could just say racist, not even just a little.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. But the one thing about Lovecraft though is he actually intended his work to be used like that, because like while he was still alive, while he was being published, people were writing about the Necronomicon. Like this creation of his was showing up in other works of fiction and weird tales or weird whatever amazing stories or wherever he was being published at the time.
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting that as an author he becomes almost a genre. Like, I think Geiger also kind of does this, but like, think of other authors for whom it's not really plagiarism, it's just existing in his genre.
Stephen King, Clive Barker, Anne Rice.
Can we get outside of horror, or is it exclusively horror? I mean,
that's where my mind is, I guess. Yeah.
Well,
Arthur C. Clarke would be one of them. Philip K. Dick, I can do this all day if we want to. I mean, at some point we should probably discuss the film. But as far as authors go, I don't know Jeff VanderMeer. I will admit to my first experience to him is seeing the movie of this without even realizing it was based not just on a book but a book series. But I guess he's fairly well known amongst the people that know him, and he has these anthologies and stuff too. The New Weird. Which are great names for anthologies, by the way.
His book series only started a couple years before the film, right? Like it was a new book.
The second book came out while they were casting.
Yeah,
got it.
So,
which I guess the second book's more about like the control area,
it's a completely separate story. But I mean, you can even argue.
Sorry,
the first book is a completely separate story. I think it would have been good if this was in the world of.
The thing that's supposed to hold the world together is that it's like the Southern Reach, right? Like which is in the movie too. It's
the other side of the right. Okay, yeah, and I heard that the third one kind of does like kind of an asynchronous sort of thing where it's sort of like telling two different stories and stuff. And there's also like I know that some of the changes from the books. There's like an actual lighthouse keeper that's in the book that kind of the Oscar Isaac character sort of takes narratively the place of in a few places and things like that. I don't know. I haven't actually read them.
I just
you want to hear more opinions about the books I haven't read?
I just finished reading the book. So I experienced this by watching the movie, loving the shit out of it, reading the book, then watching the movie again, and now being like, fucking Christ.
So what kind of changes are there? What because I know it was contentious too. Like one of the producers, like it tested poorly for test audiences, and they were like, "You have to change that ending." And then like Garland's like, "No, I don't want to," and the other producer's like, "No, he's not going to." And they're like, "Well, you have to change it." And ultimately, the back and forth meant that it didn't get like a larger theatrical release because
it got Netflix heavy. Like it got released on Netflix heavily because for the reason that the other side of it, like the distribution side of it, kind of dropped out.
Yeah, well, there's two things that I want to point out. The producer who tried to come
I'm tempted to talk while you're talking just because it would be 3 in a row, but
no. The producer who attempted to change the ending, he's the guy who greenlit Geostorm. So
Geostorm. Sorry.
Just gives you an idea of who we're talking about. And two, it was.
I don't even know what is that.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. What is that? It doesn't give me an idea of anything.
Oh my god! Just do yourself and go watch it.
It's a movie from. Isn't it from the guy who did Moonfall and Independence Day?
It's fucking the guy who was
and Gerard Butler.
Gerard Butler.
Gerard Butler.
I already don't want to watch it.
Yeah, you're not selling this to me. I'm
not selling it to me.
Basically, terrorists take over a weather-controlling space station to kill the president, and a scientist played by Gerard Butler is the only person who can stop him.
Well, his brother is part of the Secret Service.
Gerard Butler's the scientist in this?
He's the rogue badass.
Yeah, he's the astronaut scientist. Yeah, he's.
Okay. Yeah, sounds great.
It's everything expected to be. It's not a good film.
Peace and love. Nah, I'm not watching that.
I love Gerard Butler. But seriously.
Yeah, you didn't sell it to me.
The other thing about Annihilation, it was released a week after Black Panther. Like it had no oxygen to live in theaters.
Yeah, so. which was not just a hit, but like a surprisingly big hit. Which
it was
anyone that didn't think that wasn't going to be a huge hit doesn't understand culturally how important it is to have like basically the first, real big time black superhero in like a major blockbuster, and that was going to fucking go off if it wasn't it was even like remotely good, which it was quite good. I felt.
And if I only had money to see one of the two, I would still have chosen Black Panther. So
yeah, exactly. Wouldn't have been ride or die for Geostorm. Is that what
Geostorm?
So it's just a tangent for a hard second. Geostorm is like how you have to sometimes pair two things together to have the flavor be correct. You go watch the How Did It Get Made episode of Geostorm, then you watch Geostorm, then you know why the fandom exists and why that movie's so well received by people who love how bad it is.
Does Gerard Butler show dong? Is that why it has
No.
Yeah.
If you're looking for some action, you're going to have to go to Jean-Claude Van Damme's butt because you're going to get Jean-Claude's butt in every film.
It really is. It basically needs a co-starring credit. It's
Yes.
so ubiquitous.
I will never forget watching Universal Soldier, sitting behind that woman who was just having like absolute like having to fan herself like, oh my god, like whenever they showed completely vapes whenever Van Damme was showing his butt in Universal Soldier. She had this big beehive haircut too, sat right in front of me. So like
having nothing to do with any of that, though. Yeah, get us back on track.
I was gonna say, trying to bring us back.
Yeah,
I think a long time ago you asked me what was majorly different from this, from the book to the movie.
A long time ago was right. Yeah,
in a galaxy far away. No, I like that tangent though, because we talked about Geostorm, and I will always prep that movie. I think it would be quicker to tell you what was the same.
Really, that different?
Yeah, there's a biologist. Her husband was in the prior expedition.
Yeah, and that's.
Which we
that's about it. There's like 12 expeditions or something, right?
Alex Garland only read the book once, and he read it while filming Ex Machina. Like in the middle of it, he was reading the Annihilation.
Yeah, looks good.
It does have the feeling of like an anchor on New York One who has read an article on the Post and is trying to do a report ad-libbed. Like,
so he decided that he couldn't adapt anything in the book. Like pretty much anything in the actual narrative of the book to screen. Yeah. So he read the book. He goes, I'd love to do this as a project. I can't keep any of this narrative. The characters don't have names. They're just referred to as like their jobs. Like it's written as if
they're Japanese or something. Yeah.
As if it's like diary entries or something like that. Like so he's like, I can't do any of this. I can't write this. Someone else could probably write it. I can't. So he went to Jeff VanderMeer asking to adapt it, but he had to ask him like, hey, I'm not going to adapt your book. Like it's going to be like a very loose adaptation, right? Like I'm going to write my own atmospheric reimagining of it. The same way that you kind of reimagined like your dream, like I'm going to make my own reimagining of this. That's like, it's atmospheric. It's not,
and that's where it excels.
Yeah.
That's why it's good. Like there was a lot, and I understand he got, VanderMeer got stalker references with the book as well. But this is the only movie I can think of that you could directly reference that Tarkovsky movie, as well as like Alien, or Aliens, I guess more accurately, The Thing, like Jurassic Park, and be like, no, you're dead on.
I would deeply argue that this film borrows from Stalker, but the book does not.
Right. But I think that that's a better change because and again, you have to, I guess I read more of it than Garland did, but I looked at the Wikipedia and like looked at the plot summary. I was like, this is a lot of plot. This is a lot of plot that arguably, I mean, I think it would be an entirely different movie. You could make like a real heavy, like talky.
It's hard because like you get an unreliable narrator mixed with a sense of paranoia and distrust, and it's like it's like trying to film the book House of Leaves, a wonderful book, but there's no way on earth you could encapsulate the experience of reading it alone, watching it on any kind of format.
I feel like it's also like the concept of kind of adapting somebody's dream, right? Like they tell you in vague strokes what their dream is about, but since you didn't have the dream, you can't really, you're like, all right, well, I can kind of go around, what you're telling me, and since you're not the one directing it, I'm directing it. Like I kind of have to transplant my own vision of this dream onto the dream,
and it's never going to be exactly the same. No, I think that's actually pretty astute, and I think that it's well, and again, I don't know. I don't like. I'm sure the book's a different experience, but half the reason I like this is that like that sort of uneasy, vibey dread. So you just don't get that. You see movies trying to do that, and then like The Rock says something quippy or something, and it's like, Jesus Christ.
It won't let you sit in it.
Yeah.
So I have an Alex Garland clip that I liked that he's talking about this process.
Cool.
And like, so conceptually, and of course they hit it hard once you watch this and then you watch the movie again. Like they definitely hit the point he's making pretty fucking like nail on the head, right? Like with self-destruction, where it's like, oh well, we're all self-destructing, but not too many people actually commit actual suicide, but we're all kind of self-destructing, and that was the concept that he liked from the book that he took out of it and wanted to explore.
Right.
So this is him kind of talking about that process, which once I saw this and then watched the movie again, and there's that line, she's like, well, we're all self-destructing, but not very few of us actually commit suicide. I was like, okay, I've seen this Google talk already.
Right. Sure.
I had this kind of thing that I'd become aware of, or I believe I'd become aware of, which was that everyone I know, and I would speculate everybody in the room at the moment, is self-destructive. And you meet some people and their self-destruction is very apparent. They almost offer it up to you. They're an alcoholic, they're a heroin addict, they keep committing crimes, they're recidivist or whatever it is. And you can see it, it's sort of demonstrated. And then you also meet people who are very confident, comfortable in their own skin, they've got a great job, they earn a lot of money, they have a fantastic family, and you feel always slightly on the back foot because those people are intimidating, and you also feel that they have cracked life in some kind of way, they've cracked it. And then if you become very close to one of those people, you discover odd fissures here and there, and you discover very strange bits of meaningless self-destructive behavior. And it was the meaninglessness of the self-destructive behavior that I found interesting. And people are, even the sort of supernaturally prepossessed person is sort of dismantling their job, or they're dismantling a friendship, or they're dismantling their marriage. And so that became the kind of fixation that was overlaid onto this film. It is basically a film about self-destruction, and it has a kind of thesis within it about why we do that, and the various forms in which it takes, I suppose. And then in terms of overlaying that onto Jeff's really beautiful novel, which is about another kind of destruction, more eco, the planet. I thought reading this book is like a dream. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adapt it like a dream. I'm not going to reread the book. I'm going to adapt it from my memory of the book, and in a way that was what Jeff gave me permission to do. So in some places it will correlate very closely. In other places it won't.
Could you tap into that feeling that you got from the book versus just how
it's a dream response to a dream book,
right?
Kind of, and it's an interesting thing as well, because then it becomes about the nature of memory, I think, to an extent as well. Years and years ago, I was watching some TV show and there was a cop talking about eyewitnesses, and he said eyewitnesses are useless. Like, forget about, everyone thinks an eyewitness is the best thing you can have in solving a crime, but it's like the worst. And what you need is empirical evidence, fingerprints and DNA and stuff like that. And he was saying someone runs into a restaurant and there's a violent crime and someone's killed, and one eyewitness will say he had a gun, shot 5 times, another one will say shot once, another one will say there wasn't a gun, it was a knife. And you can't really rely on memory. And actually in my life, I've often observed that's true. So it was sort of making that application of that thing about subjectivity, I suppose, to this story.
Yeah, there you go. Just like you said.
Yeah, I definitely took the ending to be like hugely about the idea of human annihilation. I mean, like the Natalie Portman character teaches the alien the one thing that humans do super well: kill ourselves.
Destroy.
And then it just destroys itself, and like that.
Also,
that is
Jennifer
kind of
Jason
the
Leigh
human
literally
gift.
says annihilation.
Well, see,
it explodes.
It's interesting that you said that, because in the book, the word so in the book, the psychologist has the ability to hypnotize all the people, and she is hypnotizing them for nefarious reasons. And annihilation is the thing that she will say that would cause them all to kill themselves. So it's a literal self-destruct code in the book.
Well, and it's funny because I would, before knowing that, I would be like, that's a terrible title for a movie. It's up there with Edge of Tomorrow for like great movie, like bad title, like bad, like just like I'm like, what is this about? Like I would never think it was the good or bad acid trip, as mentioned in the comments. It could be either one at the end of it, you know.
Great question. Like, I think this movie would be well suited to be named something else.
Yeah.
But like based on like It Took the Earth from Us, or Expedition 12, or Area X, or like, you guys have any ideas?
Area X is pretty good, but then I think of X-Men.
I liked Annihilation. I mean, it's kind of, it is unfortunate that it's named the same thing as the book is, but like I did like
I
Annihilation.
still think it's important. I mean, look, the guy's not like a internationally recognized name that I'm aware of, right? So what do you get out of it? I mean, okay, it's and then if you're not ever going to make the other two books, then there's even less reason to do it.
Yeah.
Like honestly, Manhunter is probably a better title than Silence of the Lambs, or than Red Dragon.
I think the critique is that this book was incredibly well received, and there were a lot of people who were huge fans of it. So when the movie was pitched, they felt like they got sold something else. And you want to ask, like, did the executives want to call it Annihilation because the book did well, instead of just buying on Garland, who is great and did give us a really good story set in this same world?
And had a very critically acclaimed movie that was very, that people like really responded to, and was coming off of like a high vibe, positive vibe thing, right?
Yeah.
What do you guys think about the fact that
I sound like I'm on a high positive vibe. Sorry, I wasn't very articulate.
I feel like only somebody like Alex Garland could make the pitch to the author of a book like, hey, I'm going to only read this once, because he is like a well-known author and screenwriter and writing way before, for decades before he was known as a director. Now with because he had done his first movie, Ex Machina, right? Like he's pitching it to this guy. I feel
but
like
he has the writing curriculum. Like 28 Days Later alone is like
and I mean The Beach as I feel like only another novelist really could make the pitch. Hey, I know this is your novel and it's important to you, but I kind of had this idea that I could I could read it once and then write something based on my memory of it and do it that way. And I'm gonna need you have to ask permission for that, right? Like you can't if you say you're going to adapt it, you have to adapt it. If you say that you're going to read it once and then try to create a dream on top of a dream kind of from memory, you have to make it clear that you're going to do that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Like he never signed a contract saying he was going to adapt this book. He was always very clear with VanderMeer that this was going to be his version of the story. So that's touche. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and he also understands the difference between the mediums. I mean, hearing him talk about going onto the set of The Beach and learning how being a screenwriter is a collaborative process and wanting to experience that, which is why I. In our conversations beforehand, I said that was such a, that was one of those moments, hinge points in his career of understanding like him as an artist and his growth, and also understanding that it's a visual medium and not prose. That you have to be able to take it in a very different direction whenever you're adapting it, because it's not going to be the same. You cannot adapt a book the same as a film.
What makes a good book doesn't necessarily make a good movie. I mean, look at Stephen King and his thoughts on Kubrick's Shining, which is almost objectively a great film. But then, he tried to bite at the apple, and, other than Rebecca De Mornay, being arguably closer to the actual character, and, maybe a few scenes, it's not as good of a watching experience. Is it closer to the book? You bet it is.
I mean, Stephen King is a great choice because he's been screwed over many times. I mean, look at Lawnmower Man. I mean, he's sued to have his name removed from Lawnmower Man. It was that bad of an adaptation.
They basically just kept the title. I mean, there's nothing else that there was nothing even about VR or any of that. It was
so you feel like they kept the title to get you to come and see the movie that wasn't what you were sold.
Then they made a sequel off it, which I forgot about. I was like, oh.
I did want to ask you guys, in your opinion, what is the worst book that you've ever read and then seen as a movie?
Ooh.
Worst adaptation.
Okay.
I asked.
So I will, as you all know, because I talk about it all the time, I will not actively seek out anything I know is mid to bad. And the Dark Tower series is one of my favorite book series of all time. So when I heard that it wasn't just a triumph, I was like, I'm not going to watch that. I will never watch that because it's too important to me.
I didn't watch it either for the same reason.
And I never watched I love Lord of the Rings. I never watched the Hobbit movies. I heard those were mid. I don't have it in me. Honestly, Andy watched it recently. Do you remember the not the Historic Materials HBO streaming series, which is great, but Golden Compass?
Yeah,
with Nicole Kidman.
I saw Golden Compass as a kid. I don't remember anything about. As a kid, I really liked Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. and like those were like some of my favorite books as a kid. I really liked the alliteration in it. I really liked like how in depth it was, how every kind of book felt like a play, and the movie that they did with Jim Carrey, not great. They tried to throw 3 of the books into one single movie, and it lacked kind of it lacked like the Victorian kind of weirdness of those books. So and
they made a TV show too that was on Netflix, I think, right?
So the
Is that
TV
closer?
show, the TV show is fucking great, and they got the actual
good.
Daniel Handler, who's the guy that wrote the books,
who's also in Magnetic Fields. I know
So-
that, and he lives in
he
SF.
wrote,
That dude's a friend of a friend. I guess I need to
he
throw
wrote
that name
the teleplay. He wrote a teleplay at each episode, or each 2 episodes are one of his books.
Nice,
and
nice,
fucking solid. One big.
That's the only
problem-
one I've seen. I never saw that. That Jim Carrey movie looked horrendous, so I didn't watch it.
One big problem I think also is that I don't think he necessarily decided like all these books to be connected the way that they are. The first 3 of them, like these connections about like having like a secret society, all the stuff that happened later in the books didn't happen in the first few books. Like, so the TV series gave him a chance to like build that into the story way earlier than he ever did in the books, which is kind of really cool. Like he was able to from the start kind of hint all this stuff and like build it up as because he's a fantastic writer, but I just don't think he expected that he was going to do like 12 books that were.
I don't think he even thought he was going to do more than the one.
Yeah,
like, he was just doing it for the hell of it, and then
which
turns
the
out
original one is
popular,
great.
so,
like don't get me wrong, but I liked that he got to like you don't really get that many chances to like do over something that crucial to your legacy or whatever, and he got to do that in that, and he got to write all of them himself. Loved the fucking series, hated the movie.
Yeah, nice.
And to answer the question, I have to go with The Strain, which
The show The Strain. Once they
because if you read the book is freaking fantastic. The first half of the book is like this medical drama.
Book night extravaganza over here, am I right?
And then it turns into like this complete batshit insane vampire story where they're almost like zombies, but they have these things coming out of their mouths that stretch out like 5 feet. So like so like it raises the stakes really well, and it was really effectively used in the book. And none of that's the TV show. The pilot is like the first half of the book, which should be a freaking medical drama, and that's only like 15 minutes, and then they like go to very boring vampire stuff. They cut out all the cool things like the professional wrestler with a limp running around with a sword decapitating everybody. Like where the fuck was that in the TV show?
That's interesting because it's like the opposite of because Guillermo del Toro got to actually adapt
in the comments. Speaking of True Blood. That's a great and another example of like taking everything that like made the original like interesting and just sucking the life out of it. Thank you.
It's interesting with The Strain, right? Like it's the opposite of the thing that I was saying with Series of Unfortunate Events or whatever, because Guillermo del Toro actually got to create his TV show of The Strain, right? Like he got to the executive producer.
Well, yeah, I mean his name was on it. It doesn't mean that
executive producers. But
what I'm saying is
Give
like
you the money.
he got to at least have some kind of creative input maybe. I mean, I don't know.
I actually don't know. I never bothered to look into it.
I relied on it being Guillermo del Toro's The Strain pretty heavily.
I keep seeing
watched
like
the entire show.
I keep seeing the little like highlight thing on Hulu, and I'm like, nah.
I mean, David Bradley is phenomenal in it. I will shout out that just because I mean it's David Bradley, and he's playing he's got such a great character. But it's one of the best characters of the book, honestly.
Well, look at Walking Dead. Walking Dead's another example of but Walking Dead's crazy because it's like they nailed it, then they lost it, then they nailed it again, then they lost it again, so on and so on. The whole Daryl character isn't even in the comics, but it was like a pastiche of I forget the woman who was in the show was interminably annoying, but like is actually like the same narrative function.
I do appreciate though that they did the show must go on. They did the show must go on.
No,
where
you're
like
talking about the other one.
Carol
Andrea.
Walking Dead
Andrea, who's fantastic in the comics.
Yeah.
And just
fucking annoying. Yeah.
Like written by the most misogynistic person ever, apparently, because it's the most annoying chick ever. Like,
and she's a good actress too. Like
she's a great actress.
Governor Dick. And she was never the same. You know. What I mean?
She's basically, yeah, exactly. She's basically, and it's such a waste of a character. Yeah. Anyway,
but I also got to.
This isn't the Walking Dead show.
All of the main characters would just quit, and then they'd like kind of just write them out of the show, and they'd be like, "Well, I guess Rick's gone."
Can't
And it's
be.
like, that's your central character.
That's literally your main character.
You're done having a show now. Stop.
Yeah. Well, they could have kept it going if they didn't kill Carl. Like because there's the whole theory that Carl's the one telling the story, which is why Rick's always the hero because he's remembering his dad.
Who amongst us has not wanted to kill Carl themselves?
Well, yeah,
Carl.
Carl.
I mean,
are you telling the story, Carl?
Puberty and like
Carl,
learning to craft.
you're telling it all wrong.
Carl.
Let's be a little fair to him on that respect. But you're right. Who doesn't want to kill Carl?
Is that show still in the air? It can't possibly still be in the air.
No,
right?
I think it just ended.
Jesus Christ!
They,
4 years too
during
late.
the pandemic, they extended it even further, and they were
They
like,
got a spin-off series now of Maggie and Negan.
Let's just choke every nickel out of this franchise. Or I'll never watch any of it. Like when I checked out of it, I'm like, I'm done with all of this.
That first season, honestly, the only thing worth watching.
Yeah, that's Darabont. It's Frank Darabont. Anyway,
yeah.
We're way off topic. Let's get back to Annihilation.
So I have a clip of
Darabont's great though.
So we were talking about like the collaborative process of writing this, and this is like an intro kind of clip that they did to talk about the VFX in this.
Effects in this are killer. Production design and the effects are like some go off king stuff as far as I'm concerned.
So there was a lot of visual effects.
Make some wild ass bullshit. There you go. Done.
Yeah,
Here it is.
There's a lot of like they didn't necessarily write all of these different parts into the script, like what these characters, like what the bear would look like, or like all of the different kind of like flowers and stuff. They gave the visual effects people like a lot of leeway that way. So I kind of
see that's what you should do.
Yeah.
It's just like it's like what they say, like when you're writing like an action sequence. Don't write out the action sequence. Let the people that like know how to like coordinate action sequences and choreograph that stuff to do it. Don't write it out. You don't need to. You can't do it as good as they're going to do it. Visual effects, same thing. Just tell them make something cool, which I assume is going to be over here.
I make something cool, Coral.
Make something cool, Coral.
Me the first draft of the screenplay, and the thing that first jumped to mind was that the range of work in the film was going to be something that we certainly hadn't had to tackle on Ex Machina. And also because it's the story of a journey, you need to be able to pitch and pace the objects that we add or change throughout the film so that you get the sense of the build-up of strangeness across the whole film. And that to me seemed like it was going to be a pretty big challenge for us.
When he first called, he said, I'd just like about 5 or 6 images which kind of give a sort of overview of what this thing might look like. And again, I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, that sounds like, doesn't sound too hard. Then you start and it's a wormhole. The possibilities and again, and what the material demands really is very challenging. That you need to walk the walk to get to the point that you need to get to make this thing feel and seem real.
Yo, that's so terrifying, that concept art.
The tone and texture, all of that stuff is fascinating because it's exactly what I would have envisioned in researching the novel.
We were looking at a lot of cell imagery. We were looking at a lot of tumor growths on creatures and on plants to see how the radiation sickness, see how those can add mutations to creatures and to plants.
And part of our
Imagine
mission
your
was
YouTube search,
that
or
how
like
do
Google
things
search
get
history
destroyed
when you're researching
at
a movie
a
like this.
microbiological level, at a level of DNA, and that is by nucleated substances. Where has that happened in the world, or how has that happened in our lifetime? Fukushima and Chernobyl, when we started to look around at the effects, and most references are about the damaged buildings, but we found these plants that I think are called fascinated, and they have grown with the influence of damaged DNA.
And you can even just like stick a cancer cell to a tree, for example, and suddenly it looks otherworldly and odd. And those very simple things can sometimes just at least be the springboard to push you in different directions.
Then what happens is I collate the images that everyone has been putting together, and I put them together into a PDF, and that then gets disseminated to everybody, and it becomes the tonal look of the film. Well, apart obviously of thinking about Jeff's book, which is, you'd have to say, the single biggest influence, the real influences, not the post-rationalized or even pre-rationalized influences, are sort of unknown to me, I think. But if I was going to hazard a guess, I'd probably say Alan Moore, British comic book writer. I suspect there's some Alan Moore in there.
He's mentioned in the past how the Alan Moore comics were a big influence on him, and Alan is a very intellectual writer in the same way I think that Alex is.
Swamp Thing.
They're very Gnostic, very for sure.
And one thing I absolutely love about this is, and I do get a little annoyed by monochromatic filmmaking, but when it's used like how this film is, where everything's very green for the most part, but when they add that shimmer, it just adds that otherworldliness to it, and everything that wasn't necessarily green, because remember that their outfits were green, like nature's very green. There's a lot of green on screen. It really made it pop up, because from the advertising, I just thought it was going to be like bisexual lighting in the swamps, and I very much appreciated the fact that it was not just we're going to film it in a swamp with bisexual lighting.
Can you describe what you mean when you say that?
Oh, we can do better than describe it. We can show you. Bisexual lighting? Yeah, well, I guess it's kind of like what Andy has going on.
Purple and blue. Okay, I got
It's that ubiquitous. Yeah, well.
Yeah.
Do we actually? Why do we not? We have to look it up every time. Why do we have to look it up every time?
We haven't referenced it though in a minute. You know what I mean?
So if you look up bisexual lighting, this guy is what I'm thinking of. This dude here.
I love it.
I assume it's a dude. I don't know.
Yeah,
this movie
it's on Wikipedia, which is great.
Yeah.
No,
3D rendering of a skeleton.
100% know what you are talking about now.
Yeah,
but yeah,
the audience who's listening to us, screw you. I don't know. Google.
Yeah, anyone listening on the podcast. Sorry, I'm
everyone who's listening on the podcast has definitely heard the reference before.
Oh God. I bet the skeleton's on screen again.
One of the things, like a couple things away, looked like like Sam Cedar with bisexual lighting. One of the
right, yeah.
But no, I appreciate though that also in this, like they didn't just go with one color palette for the entire thing. Like the room when they finally get into like the lighthouse in the room, right? Like, and it's overgrown. It's so that is monochromatic. That is because they have the it's like this pale white, and it's the same kind of albino color that the alligator is.
Yeah, well, it's another like trick in storytelling, so you set change scenes. So like a good filmmaker or a good comic book artist, specifically colorist, would know to shift the color palette. So when you switch scenes, so you know that you're in a different place.
Well,
so
it's also like, what happens.
You open the door and suddenly. Ah!
He blew himself up with a phosphorus grenade, and then he had a bisexual flag behind him.
And topographically, they're like changing, like kind of ecospheres, so the colors would kind of shift.
Yeah, and it's also what happens when you refract. I mean, when you're looking at like refractions, right? You're looking at a prism. The colors kind of de-align a lot of times, so you see like the rainbow or something.
But what you also saw with the fingers in the cup, which I thought was one of the most beautifully shot scenes, and that was great use of foreshadowing too.
Yeah, and very, very subtle, and you're sort of like, what the heck? What's going on? What is this?
And there was definitely several scenes where they had the foreground very dark, kind of black and white background, pops of color, which made me feel like Stalker in the way that it kept shifting from color to black to color to black. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, and that otherworldly white in Stalker, right? Like I feel like when they're in the final lighthouse and it's that albino color. Yeah, it's that exact same color palette. So this is going on to the bear, because the bear is like one of my favorite parts of this movie for sure. It's so fucking terrifying.
Yeah,
and so this is them talking.
Yeah, because you first see the deer, right? And the deer are like, oh, whoa, that's freaky, that's crazy looking, and then you see the gator. And you're like, wow, that fucking sucks. That would suck to get attacked by that thing. And then you see the bear.
Well, the other two things are like,
the deer was, this is not very much venison if you're gonna.
Yeah.
Well, and I heard from Kaylee of Haploid that she's gonna get a tattoo of the bear in this. She likes this movie so much. So there you go.
Yeah.
Take that.
The bear was one of the very early.
Well, it's also like it's the evolution thing again, right? Because it's the the deer are like, all right, well, the deer don't really fit into this, but the reptile first, it's the reptile coming out of them, and then it's the mammalian bear in the process of evolution, right? Like it's like it's merged with a human, and then when she's actually in the lighthouse, it's just various forms of humans that have merged into other things.
Yeah, it's like. Oh, I was just gonna say I was going through the different types of stuff in the phylum and genomes of the animal kingdom. Go ahead.
Yeah,
continue.
I was going to say that the deer is a duplication. So the one behind it is doing exactly the same thing as the one in front of it. So like there are different. The area X here doesn't just assimilate; it like duplicates, it creates, it merges.
It's Chekhov's deer too, because if you think about it, they're the twinning at the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's all about hope and change. You know what I mean? Inside of that.
Things that we knew had to be solved. We looked at, I mean, it wasn't a good day at the office, but looking at diseased animals, the way that the skin can be sort of malnourished and blistered, and those were the kind of things that Alex responded to, because it just gave it a sick look.
Oh, fuck, Jock!
The creature looked sick.
The bear was one of the first things that we started doing
This concept art's great.
We had some very strange ideas. We sometimes, we had versions where it was sort of more like a wild boar rather than being a bear. And then one of the concept artists, Peter, came up with the idea of sort of smooshing skulls together, and he just in sort of CG just literally kind of mashed some skulls together and then just started painting on top of that. And that immediately, when I saw it, went, yes, that's a great idea, and showed that to Alex, and he went, yeah, I really like that. And then it was a question of, okay, what then do we want to do to the rest of this bear?
So not only was it sort of more, this bear was sort of emaciated and skinny and losing its hair, but it started to have elements of other things that are in this world, maybe other people that have been attacked by it or eaten by it or such. So I think having those kind of elements coming through, it also has sort of human teeth on the inside of its bear teeth. So all these little other mutations that are sort of gradually fusing into things we meet along the way.
Perfect example. First of all, that's freaky as hell. All of that's great album art.
Yeah. Oh, Jock. If you're not familiar with Jock, he does comic book covers for DC. His Green Arrow stuff is phenomenal. Like you're just like, I actually kind of want to read this Green Arrow comic, and
right, based on the cover.
Yeah, just based on the cover, because this. But yeah, look up his stuff. It's absolutely beautiful. I had no clue he worked on this film. I did not stick around for the ending credits. That's exciting.
I
Too
feel
busy
like
rushing on to the next movie, I guess.
I feel like there's something almost political or like revolutionary about the references to change and how we perceive change, inside of the Shimmer as destruction. And so like that final line when she's talking about it, she's like, I don't think that they really wanted anything, right? Like it's change happening as change does, as, mutation kind of does, like in a like definitely like revolutionary aesthetic sense. Happening, and like the alien itself doesn't have any, it's not it doesn't want anything, right? Like it's not coming down for a specific purpose. It doesn't have an agenda. It's just like mutating and changing whatever it touches. I just felt like I felt cued into some kind of almost like political or revolutionary statement there about the way that we kind of perceive these forces, not in like our politics kind of sense, but like in a very macro sense. With human perception.
Well, okay, so then at least from the movie's perspective, I can't speak to the books as we've established, but like again, it's heavily implied that this is going to be some like malevolent presence, some sort of low key invasion on a different sort of scale, as if there's some sort of intent behind it. But I think the idea of it just being like basically happenstance is almost more terrifying, right?
Yeah,
and that's a concept that, in the era of everything has intent and history and self-awareness and blah, 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 that's almost the most horrifying thing at all, just like actual chaos theory of it.
And she's an oncologist, so they talk about the cancer a little bit in the beginning. So if you think of cancer as an entity that changes what it interacts with, it's not technically malevolent. It's It's not malice. It's just what it does.
It's not talking trash actively. It's just,
Like,
it's killing you. Yeah.
It's just
Well, they
that's
talk
just
about-
it's being the organism that it is.
They talk about cancer a lot in this because like each time you watch it, like you pick up on a different thing because the woman who's Alexander Skarsgård's her like his girlfriend or whatever, the one lady that's in the canoe with her, I forget her name. She's talking about how her daughter died of leukemia.
Yeah, just identify her by her the man in her life.
Yeah, because I'm misogynistic. Anyway,
exactly.
I think
Where do you see
Cass's
men?
name is Cass.
No, but so yeah, Cass. So she's talking about how her daughter died of leukemia and it changed her, right? Like she's talking about how
Female cast, I won't learn a single name. Sorry. Go ahead.
ma'am, what's your husband's name? That's how I'm gonna identify all of your characters.
Yeah, Mrs. Anakin Skywalker.
Okay, make your point. Go ahead.
No, but like, so she's saying that her daughter died of leukemia and she's no longer the person that she once was. And then later on in the movie, we find out Ventress has cancer, and that's why she's been around the Shimmer too long or whatever, and that's why she's so down to just go right towards it and find out what it is, and whether she can destroy it or whether she can learn about it or whatever it is, because she has nothing left to lose. She's perfectly willing to change. So like cancer gets referenced over and over and over again in all of these different scenes, and it's not always like this. I like that this movie doesn't necessarily beat you over the head with that fact. Like it's very left up to interpretation, because the same way you could kind of take suicide or something like that as a thing that's also referenced a bunch of times as another form of destruction. And if you're somebody that's dealt with people, I think around you having cancer, that's what you're probably going to take out of the point of the movie, or like what one form of destruction that they're talking about. But if you're someone that's had to deal with like suicide, right, like that's another form. You could zero in on any of these factors, and that could speak to you. Then you could decide that that's what the movie is about, or that's what the Shimmer is referencing. Which it's all of these things, but like your own experience, I think, affects how you interpret the movie more than anything else, on purpose. Like they did it on purpose.
Tuva Novotny, by the way, is her name, and she speaks Swedish, Czech, Danish, and Norwegian on a native level.
Wow.
I feel stupid for thinking that she was Irish at first.
Oh, she's. I mean, God, she's.
Her accent was like vaguely like that was the first thing.
Yeah, well, she seems very Swedish to me, but like whatever. It's just like that indistinct kind of like Nordic kind of way, whatever. Also, she's acting.
The Shimmer got KT.
Oh yeah, wow. Man, it's just who's gonna be next, right? Andy's gonna tie us up.
Well, yeah, because I know your secret.
Right, exactly. And you're gonna start talking.
I'm not gonna make it to the movie because like what do I really have to come back for? Like
KT heard your blatant misogyny and just bailed. Honestly, we don't have your audio, KT. Sorry, hold on. I think you might be on hardware mute. And I did invoke men. I don't love men. I mean, I love men, obviously. The movie Men, I thought was only okay.
Gay. No.
I think it's there's some great mood to it, and it ultimately kind of fails to do. It was a disappointment for me. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it.
I'm just not a big Charlie Sheen fan. No, that's 2.5 Men. Different.
Different film. Right.
Different number of men.
Yeah, and I was so hyped up because I loved Ex Machina. I love this movie. I think it's cool. I think Devs is great. Like I was like, oh fuck yeah, new Alex Garland is gonna be awesome. It's even got I like what's her face, the lead. I can't remember her name right now, but she was in I'm Think of Ending Things as well. She's awesome. And it Jessie Buckley, I think is her name, right? Is that right? I didn't think Men didn't do what I wanted it to do.
They rarely do. He has Sonoya Mizuno in every single one of his projects. Damn, like she was.
Really?
I mean, yeah, like she was Kyoko in Ex Machina.
Well, that I knew. Yeah. I mean,
in this, she's the humanoid.
Oh yeah, okay. She's in. I just mentioned Devs. She's in Devs also.
Yeah, so she's. I think he has her in every. Ex Machina was the first movie she was ever in, so I guess it's kind of like his muse that he wants to work with in every project now that he directs. But
by the way, you know who else is in Devs, and he's like totally plays against cast? Nick Offerman. And he's really good, but like not playing like what Nick Offerman is known as. Basically, he has like the one role he's always cast in now.
Well, which I think that might be the first thing I actually saw Nick Offerman in.
Yeah.
And so like,
oh really?
I'm just like,
wow.
Why is everybody? He's a good actor. What's up with this?
Yeah, right. He's got range. Why is everyone stereotyping this dude?
Well, it's funny. Like he doesn't seem. I mean, he seems a lot like the character that he plays, but like he's kind of like a resistance lib kind of guy. And I feel like because of Parks and Recreation, he's always cast as like libertarian guy. And then you like read his Twitter feed, and it's nothing like that at all. He's like, Trump's going to jail, and it's like. I didn't expect that tweet from you. Like,
well, him and his wife, both are like known like progressive activists and stuff like that. But it's just wild that like his character in Forrest and Devs is just like so against anything I've ever seen him play, and he's so good at it. Like he's just so good.
Well, his character in Fargo is really funny when he's the alcoholic lawyer.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right. Forgot about that.
That's like, I'm not shaking hands with Ronald Reagan. He was in a movie with a monkey, and then he runs up and he's like, Mr. President, I loved you in that movie.
Were you going to say something, Andy, before we move on to?
No, I was just gonna mention also like Oscar Isaac was another reused thing for at least for Alex Garland's first two films.
Yeah.
Oh, because he was in Ex Machina. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, there's a great Twitter
big facial
account,
hair in that one, but yeah.
Great Twitter account where they actually take his dance scene and put it to different songs, and apparently that those dance moves work whatever song you put it with. It's absolutely incredible.
It's like a universal dance scene.
But
it's like pure after party material.
It's really interesting.
I appreciate that you can recognize that. Thank you.
It's really interesting that the Kyoko actress, she's in this for a scene like with her like her actual face or whatever. She's in it for like she asked the question at the beginning in class or whatever that Natalie Portman responds to. But then like it's cool that she was willing to do the humanoid. Like this is a clip about the humanoid stuff, but it's cool that she was willing to be like the person in the suit, right? That's doing like because it's like interpretive dance almost. Their fight scene more than anything.
It's a wild visual. Yeah, it's crazy.
We're backtracking to that. I think there's great scale and detail of out of control growth and mutant change.
When you're moving, stay in character.
Yeah.
Try to remember roughly what Jennifer did. You could watch it, yeah.
I am Sonoya Mizuno, and I am playing the humanoid. I also have a small part as Katie, one of Lena's students at the beginning of the film. So I met Alex on Ex Machina, and he had this idea for what would usually be a typical action scene to make it something a bit more interesting and different and pushing the boundaries. And because I have a background in dance, we spoke a lot about it and how we could make a scene which was like a dance but not actually a dance, and that's how this whole kind of idea evolved.
Bobby, who was the choreographer for the end sequence, and Sonoya, who plays the humanoid, we did a whole fight choreography that was coming from almost a dance to have sort of a different flavor than a usual fight.
When the humanoid is going to be fully formed, it will be a kind of featureless, quite androgynous shaped person. So this is all going to become that in VFX, who eventually sets on fire. So then that's why I get changed into a very cool and expensive LED suit later.
It's been really great to get to work with Sonoya. She's obviously a professional ballet dancer, so she has this real ability to a really great gift for movement. And so I really give her any credit for the symmetry of it, because I feel like I'm sort of doing what I would do and then she's kind of mirroring it.
The basic idea was to have an alien that was truly alien, that was not like us in any way. It needed to have a kind of otherness. And that does then present you with a problem. If the alien is affecting everything else, and everything else needs to have an otherness, and the closer you get to the alien, the more other things get. And then when you meet it, it needs to deliver on the promise of being very other. It's a problem. It's difficult. If the alien wants to eat you, It's easier. I mean, look, I'm not being disparaging about one of my favorite movies of all time, actually, is Alien, which is about an alien that wants to eat people. But at least you have something to go on, which is it's a killing machine. It's dangerous. It's fast. Yeah, it needs to have claws or teeth or something. If it wants to teach you about its galactic federation and improve your culture, then it's intelligent and smart and it's motivated. It's motivated by the same kind of things that motivate us. This thing is not motivated by any of the things that motivate us. It may not actually be motivated by anything. It might be like a spore or a mushroom or a cancer, or, and have no real sentient qualities at all, just echoing qualities. Who knows,
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta say, my favorite thing is that the almost Doug Jones-like quality to her movements.
The senator?
No, the actor. The guy from all the Del Toro films.
Oh, okay.
That
makes more
he's also on Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah.
But for years he was just that guy. He always has like a very extra in his movement and his performances.
He was also Mac the Knife in the Burger King commercials.
Yes.
Was he really?
I like that I knew exactly what you guys were talking about as soon as you went like this. Like that was the for me. And I was like, with the eyes.
That dude. All right. No. You could have just done that. I would have known what you're talking about.
Yeah, he also
Andy Serkis for like level of body actors.
Yeah.
But yeah, he also was Silver Surfer in the Rise of the Silver Surfer movie. If you
that only Andy saw. Yeah.
Sure, KT's seen it.
I have.
She's been trying to forget it.
Doug Jones was great. It's about the best thing about the film.
The concept of Silver Surfer itself is really like crucial, and I feel like a lot of other films you'll find that again.
I think the oblique intent I mentioned in the clip is key to like why this movie works and why it's deeply unsettling is because like you don't know what it. There may not even be a reason, which is like again, as I mentioned earlier, almost the most terrifying answer out of all of them. And when I keep referencing Jurassic Park, half it's for the character design, like Phil Tippett style, right? Where it's like oh wow, that's you're not gonna forget that anytime soon. You can see that in your nightmares. But the other half is just like just the again, it's I agree with Garland. God damn it. I agree with Garland that it's like you can understand if something just straight up wants to kill you, but if it's like, oh, you're like just doing what I do, like, do you do a funky dance? Like, what? I mean, what do you do in that situation? Start doing the mashed potato? I mean,
it's so much more self-centered too. To be like, everything is viewed from my point. Like, you must be here to kill me. Like, what if the terrestrial is just an explorer and their existence is not like good for humans? It's hard for us to exist in the same time. Like, isn't that kind of what we do when we terraform? We kill
but it's
all these
okay
other
when we do it.
animals. But like, what if Area X is a place that you can go and experience what it's like to be, poached upon by humans as a human? Live in an environment that's not good for you. Because I mean, the flora does
Vegas?
very well. Everything grows well there.
Well, and
we're talking about Vegas.
But the flora is not going to understand or necessarily even have the lexicon to understand what human culture is and like what this planet is. And that's a great point. Like look at how we'll just charitably say inelegant all of our adventuring and colonizing in a lot of cases can be, including space exploration. Yeah.
I mean, not just culture, like human physiology, right? Like the human genetic code. Like it might not have any awareness that it isn't good for humans, right? Like it might not.
Well, how would it know?
Yeah. So I mean, which is something that you probably have to be like worried about going to. Like what if we did start doing space exploration, where it's us as human beings being fully vulnerable and going into these worlds? Like radiation fucks you up. I can't imagine like what other planets could possibly have that of a similar form of something
space germs.
Impossible horrors we can't comprehend. But like look at it from its perspective, right? 1 minute it's sitting there and like learning mime, and the other minute it's got a phosphorus grenade. Surprise.
And that in of itself is very Lovecraftian. This idea that we're approaching a horror or a concept that is so difficult for us to understand that our mind would melt instead of understand it, which is kind of like going back to Interstellar. Can you imagine if you like went to the fourth dimension and you just had a total, like, you're looking at a biblical alien breakdown? Like, oh no, we're trying to save humanity and we keep smushing their tiny brains.
I mean, but even like even not trying to save human, like even just, you know, it just is here, right? Like the beginning of it. I mean, the presuming that it came on like a meteor or something, and the meteor hits the fucking lighthouse, and then after that, the thing is just in the lighthouse, right? Like
it's also its base camp, right? That's where it's lamping. It's lamping at the Crystal Plant Lighthouse Mojo Jojo.
That assumption, I think, is kind of like maybe it just doesn't want anything. Maybe it crash landed and now it's kind of fucked up and like trying to figure out where it is. Or maybe, you know, like spores, when a plant gives off spores, like the plant doesn't choose where those spores are going to go. They just kind of go like forever and ever.
Just before we came on, I was watching a thing about the evolution of the mosquito, which apparently is inadvertently man-made. They're basically,
of course we did it.
Yeah. But it's all
they're not mosquitoes. They're drones. They're drones.
The change of the Earth's rotation created the desert in Africa, and because of that, people started saving water in jugs, and that became a new habitat for the mosquitoes.
Oh, wow.
And because of that, they became self-selecting to their prey, which was mankind, and because mosquitoes were not natural to North America until the slave trade. So like yeah,
we are horrible.
Exactly.
And yes, as in Cold Lampin' Flavor Flav. That's correct.
I do like though that the slave
just
trade,
like the mosquitoes. Like this is the you know, we're experiencing like the perspective of this, you know, creature coming from someplace else that is trying to fit into this new environment. Whether we brought it there or not, it doesn't matter. I mean, maybe it's happened from Barb and Star Goes to Vista Del Mar. They kept shimmering and my God.
There it is.
Gotta get that shimmer.
I would have known that I tweeted out that joke first.
Let the record show.
It's our shimmer. No, but I do like the idea that like so many people have died from malaria, so many people have died from like mosquito-borne diseases that like it's the slave trade that accidentally let this like force into the world that's like killed, I mean, you know, millions of fucking humans by now and still is like
right.
We're
and we'll continue to do so for
and you include West Nile and all the other kind of things that get
so do you guys want to watch this gator clip?
Can I tell you that some of my favorite creatures in the entire animal kingdom are of the Camion branch, so alligators, crocodiles, gabions, camions. Love them.
And they've been they're the creature more than anything, right? That's been untouched. I mean,
almost exactly the same since, you know, like for like millennia.
When I was
astounding.
It's them and it's those bony fish.
I do not like those. Those can fuck off.
like the gar, but I mean the gar are very alligator, crocodile like, right? Like it's those are the kinds of creatures that survive through the millennia.
Well, if you actually look at a Gavio, those are pretty freak. Those could be right out of this movie, frankly, with those like long probosces.
I mean, most of your aquatic situation is going to be upsetting.
Yeah, it's deeply freaky.
True.
Especially
when I was
like
4,
swamps.
I had a imaginary pen pal called Uncle Alligator. So like I have a deep love.
Was it an actual alligator?
I wasn't even actual letters. My parents would give me junk mail and be like, "Hey, look, Uncle Alligator wrote you a letter." And
so your parents were just fucking with you.
Yeah.
Uncle Alligator wants his money from Wells Fargo.
Yo, I heard Uncle Alligator wants you to buy this liquor for me.
Uncle Alligator needs to put this money in your account because it's trapped in the swamp banks.
Exactly.
And he needs to get it out because they're drying up.
It's 2 to 5 days for
Uncle Alligator put a bunch of mortgages in your name, and now that the housing market is crashed.
If anybody calls, you spent last night with Uncle Alligator.
All right, there we go. We do have fun here.
Anything interesting in there? No, it's been long abandoned, maybe even before. You know what's funny is when I got the part, Alex made a stop in New York to talk to me, especially about the alligator attack, because I think he was a little afraid that I maybe, that any actress might not be up for the challenge. And of course, we have an incredible stunt team. But, so much of the suspense of that exists on your face, really. So it was a bonus that I was up for the challenge.
I got you. I got you.
But he came to New York basically to explain to me what a tough day it was going to be. And I thought, are you making sure that I'm going to be okay so that you really decide, can I make the movie? I'm going to be fine, I promise you.
Tessa was absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. A really, really uncomfortable scene.
Get her. Come on.
And again, she didn't complain all day. I didn't hear a peep out of her. She was absolutely brilliant. We rehearsed that, so we built a tank for her to rehearse in, so that, but it was warm water and it was clean, but she got the idea of, and we rehearsed the action with her, all the drags under, the breath holding, being ragdolled around by the alligator. Then when we came to the day, the water was much colder, it was murky, it was dark, and she was in it all day. And again, phenomenal stamina and phenomenal performance, and just so, wanted to do it all and to get it all right.
She's an itty bitty person, but with a lot of water and a big old backpack, it was pretty heavy, which was very cool, and that was really cool to see. And she was a super champ because it was not easy, and it was cold outside and it's wet, and from inside the hut to out of the hut to in between takes to setting up different takes, it's extremely demanding. And to see her do it without complaining is pretty awesome.
You're good. You're good. Okay.
Alex has a very close relationship with Andrew, our visual effects supervisor, so he's very confident in visual effects, but he also appreciates the need for physical effects when it interacts with our actors, when it interacts, say, like here, we're interacting with water a lot, with the alligator, and it's very important for visual effects to have something to work with, to have the actual physical interaction with the water movement, the way the water hits the ground, the way the water hits the actresses.
So we made various elements to help achieve that. One of them being a full-size, realistic-looking alligator. Another one was like a hero head of the same alligator, so they could physically open the jaw and have a look inside and examine it, and it's all kind of got the same weight, and the teeth are kind of sharp and as realistic as we could make it, essentially. And there was a couple more elements for VFX reference. We had sort of a man in a suit sort of version, and then a sort of foam sort of stand-in version. And we also provided some other sort of silicon versions for interaction with the water, so the alligator has to sort of come out of the doorway and slip into the lake, and they needed obviously the displacement of the water.
What that gave us was a good natural splash from something that was the appropriate size. It also gave us a lot of things that again would be very difficult to add after the fact, like the ripples that then go away, and then if you look in the background of the shot, when the ripples hit the edge of the pond, you start seeing the grass moving over there. All of that we got in camera. Then we paint out the buck and we replace it with the CG gator.
Good use of practical effects and CGI together there. That's devastatingly effective scene, for sure. Like, that whole scene is like, oh, whoa, oh, that.
I feel like you don't really think about the fact that this movie is supposed to be in Florida like that much at first, and then that kind of just jars you into it too. Right?
Alligators.
Yeah,
which are in the news all the time in Florida. If you turn on the news, and it's like every third news item is like,
man throws alligator into the drive-through window.
Right. Exactly. It's a liquor store. There's alligators involved with every news story. They're just all over the place.
But all of the effects in this movie, even if they were partially CGI, were also partially there, and I think that really gives the actors something to go off of. So you get really good performances. Like they were able to get Tessa's performance because so much of that was actually interactive with her versus like, I would kind of put it in later. I think what's so interesting to me was to realize that the flower people were people in suits with the kind of like prosthetic feet. And then they kind of painted the CGI on top of them. So there was something there to respond to.
That works. I think that works really well. And you make a great point about having something to react to. Because, like, you know, when it happens, and Tessa Thompson's like literally mid-sentence and it just grabbed inside. And at that point in the movie, first time through, you're like, you have no idea what's going on. But that's like the first time anything appreciable, like, oh, no, stuff is definitely not okay here happens.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that, and it's so abrupt. And the whole, like, going into the water thing after to, like, get her out. And you're like, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Like, it builds stakes almost immediately. And if it was just like, I don't know, man. You watch these like these newer horror movies that are just CGI'd up the wazoo that don't even bother with anything practical. It just takes me out of it immediately. It all looks like a video game, and I mean that's an insult.
Yeah, I think you can look at Lake Placid as a really good example of a not great alligator in an alligator film.
What a fun
Uncle
film.
Alligator would not approve. Thank you.
No, Uncle Alligator wrote me nasty letters about.
Strongly worded letter to the editor about that.
Yeah.
I also appreciate like the albino alligators are like a real thing, right? Like
Yeah.
They are in like zoos and stuff. I mean they get more news than they should based on how rare they are because of like the fact that they're in zoos. Like more than you know what I mean? Like but I do really appreciate the fact that
there's something kind of unnerving about an albino anything.
Yeah.
Too. Right.
Yeah.
Like it's something that's sort of like, oh, like it catches your attention. And if it's something that's that deeply huge and carnivorous.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, and there's kind of like a association with albino, and maybe it's just for me, albino animals and the government. In that, like in upstate New York, there's that base that used to be held for ammunition reserves. And because they had fenced it off and there were albino deer in there, the albino deer kept having children with itself, and there's like a whole herd of albino deer inside this like ex-military base. And the rumor is, oh, the ammunition made them albino, but it was kind of the, you know, ability to only be for itself.
I was just gonna say the royal family of albino deer.
Yeah, and people in Florida are trying to make it so that they have to leave.
Ever since they started doing the 5G, these deer have all been coming out albino.
So who would be the Meghan Merkel of the albino deer?
Of the albino deer, I guess Uncle Alligator.
Would the Meghan Markle of the albino deer world just be a regular deer? Like
it's a regular deer, yeah.
Touche.
Like, oh no, you're gonna dilute the gene pool.
Yeah, exactly.
with your dominant genes.
Man.
Yeah, but like,
but I think like if you see the water displacement, right? Like, I don't think you get the same stakes of like holy crap, if it just looks like again, just to keep bagging on video games. That video game look of like, and now it's coming towards you. Press X. Okay, I will.
And from a very like practical point, you could take the money you don't spend and the time you don't spend putting in ripples and put it much better places than that.
Yeah.
You know, it's a much better idea. And do we have any like clips of the bear guy or the person inside the bear suit? Because that's another scene where you really have to react to what is near you.
Yeah, I didn't grab a clip, but I can go into the YouTube video and then turn the YouTube video on, and then we could.
No worries, but it's a really interesting suit that has like
is it one person that's
it,
like,
yeah.
This one person that's
kind of
moving
like crawling around near you, making that horrific fucking sound. It's just, you know, I think the performances in this film really make what makes you feel so uncomfortable. Like it's really high stakes. You're really right there with them. You're just as upset as they are.
The sound design too.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's some god tier sound design. Oh, and we started talking about some Uncle Alligator style thing earlier. But like I was saying, one of the things I love about this is that like with the production design and the effects, like they just like make something cool, right? They weren't trying to like. It should look like this, it should be like that, whatever, and they just let their imagination run wild. Came up with some incredible, like, you know, guide artwork that like was almost as unsettling as the real deal, and that's what you should do. Like, what? Why is that so hard? Like, everyone is so obsessed with being an auteur, and it's funny because like everyone talks about Garland being an auteur too, right? Like, but he did, like, it's what you actually should do. Is let professionals be professional. Don't micromanage the art. Don't micromanage the music. Don't micromanage the sound design. If you have it, I mean, you know what you can do? Micromanage sound design. You know what I'm gonna say, right? Huh?
Hans Zimmer.
Hans Zimmer, thank you.
Yeah.
And the last 5 days shooting, all we were doing is shooting about. It's like there's very little dialogue. We spent 5 days on a very big action sequence with stunts.
Gina is amazing. Not only did she want to do all of her own stunts, but she did her own stunts. Some people say she really did. I mean, she is not only is she beautiful and feminine, but she is strong. She's a really, tough cookie.
So I'm a bit like an adrenaline junkie. I love to do my own stunts. I'm a big fan of that, which sometimes they're not always the biggest fan because they obviously want to protect us and make sure that we're okay. Luckily for me, I die at the way end of this movie, so I'm able to do my stunts because should something happen, I'm done anyway. But I have really cool stunts that I get to do. And so far, I've banged up myself pretty bad, but happily. And that was my choice, to live in this awesome world that he's created and to get the opportunity to do stuff outside of my comfort zone.
She did proper big stunts. She got picked up and slammed hard by a guy the size of a bear into a wall, and then thrown from the wall really hard down to the ground. And they weren't messing about. They actually did it.
When she's getting chucked around, she's actually getting chucked around. I mean, they were not holding back at all, which makes our lives so much easier, because when we're adding this sort of huge creature, you're not feeling that we have to animate it so it looks like it's mollycoddling her a bit. I mean, we can animate it so it's really slinging her around, because Jack was really chucking her around. So again, that sort of that practical on-set, tangible impact helps us, and it helps the finished film so much.
Actually, don't pull me that hard yet. Pull me hard eventually, but let me hang on a little bit so that I can do a little bit of it.
So I did have to, play a mum a little bit and go, right, because I don't need my pads on. I'm like, yeah, you're going to put your pads on, and keep an eye on her, because, when the adrenaline's going and she also has the emotion of the character and all of that to deal with, all the acting side to deal with, sometimes at the end of the day you can think, oh, actually I am really sore and stuff. So that's part of my job, is making sure that, she can do that all the acting and the emotional without having to worry about the physical side. So I was, making sure you've got your pads on, and like, yeah.
And then the next morning came in and everyone was asking her how sore she must be. And she said, no, she didn't feel anything at all. And it was, she had to pretend that she had some ache somewhere to make the rest of us feel sort of slightly less inadequate.
We've cut that.
Do you have the
Okay. Everyone all right?
So first of all, you can really feel that thump, like that initial thump.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, whoa, like it's one of the things that makes that such a, just again, another just dazzling effective scene.
That guy is proper Jack too.
And that's a wall. That's not a padded anything. That's
No, she's
wall
going
to floor.
straight into the wall.
And just wanted to shout out Joe McLaren, who does, the woman who was doing the stunt supervision. She worked on Doctor Who. Before
No
this.
kidding, that's awesome.
Yeah, she for quite a few years. She's off doing other things, but she's done a ton of stuff, from Titanic to Devs, which I don't remember too many stunts there, but apparently she was involved with that one too.
There's a couple. Gina Rodriguez, by the way, only other thing I've seen her in is Kajillionaire, which could not be more different than this movie. But I loved Kajillionaire. It's great, but not a lot of stunts in that one. Also, she may be happy doing stunts now. I think she's going to be 40 next year, so it's like I got some bad news. You got to work 5 times as hard for half the results. So
I mean, look at Tom Cruise. He's what, 75? No,
102.
At some point, she's just going to.
It looks great for his age.
She's just gonna be taking voice acting jobs. She's gonna be like, I can't go on set anymore. I can't go on set because I just volunteer for too many stunts.
She seems to like doing it, but it's just wild that, yeah, I guess I'm sure she's been in other things, but I've only ever seen her in Kajillionaire, which was fantastic and frankly like not seen by as many people as it should have been. But like, yeah, I never thought of her as an action lady, But there you go.
She's part of the Wikipedia page, Puerto Ricans in Chicago. I didn't know that they just have a list of Puerto Ricans in Chicago, but apparently they do.
I don't like it when they have a list of minorities. That makes me uncomfortable.
Anytime people start making lists, it's not usually a good sign. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that. Well, and I guess we haven't really talked about the fact that as much as it's very much like, it's not explicitly an action movie, but there's a lot of action in this movie, and it is, with the some rare exceptions, including Oscar Isaac, largely female cast.
Yeah, and it's not, but it's also not like trying to do that, right?
Hey, everybody, girl power! Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not doing that.
They just happen to be like the 12th expedition or whatever. That it's at this point, it's all the women that have been around the base that are like, all right, well, we're gonna send in a team of scientists this time. I liked that the last few of them, because we talked about this. I feel like with like Day of the Dead and stuff, right? Like there's always like the scientific community and the military community are like they're interconnected, but they're not quite. They don't vibe in the same way, right? Like
they're not always going to see eye to eye, to put it bluntly. Yeah,
yeah. So I like that this time they make it clear that like the dudes they sent in that all fucking killed each other. Now that they know that, besides Oscar Isaac's clone or whatever, like they're all military, and they're like, all right, well now we're gonna send in a team of women to like study the shimmer that maybe aren't gonna do that because they're scientists, and one of them is like a paramedic, and one of them is like a geomorphologist or something, and one of them is
But in the book, it takes 12 expeditions or something before they do that, right?
I mean, I assume that it's taken a few in the movie too, right? Like,
yeah, it feels like it's the same number of spoiler alert. In the book, they reveal that the number of expeditions is a lie, and it's been almost like hundreds of years that they've been doing this, and they're feeding the Area X people. I mean, I don't want to cut Forrest off. If
I don't know.
I mean, I agree.
They sent animals in the book too. They sent like pets into the shimmer too, and like.
Not that I remember. I mean, there are like in the book. Another spoiler. A lot of the animals are described as being half human in a way that insinuates that they might be the former people from expeditions. Now, like cast into this life of being this humanoid dolphin or this like really horrible thing that exists in the reeds. But so the book is, the film is feminist. We feel like, it's got an all female cast. They're all scientists, but like
they're all scientists.
In the book, what if I told you in the book, first of all, the scientist earns her right to be there. She doesn't just volunteer because her husband was there, and she's tested. She volunteers. She goes in. She knows exactly what she's doing, and she doesn't go in to go after him. They have a terrible marriage. They don't love each other, and she says many times that her impetus to go in is not to find out what happened to him, but to find out about the void. And in the movie, it feels like we keep coming back to what happened to Oscar Isaac's character. It's really important to keep having these scenes because he's a great actor, and Alex Garland works with him, and it makes sense with this story. But what if I told you there was a version of this story where that is completely not important, and it feels a little bit more feminist, and it feels a little bit more like, oh yeah, this feels more human, if anything.
But that's more academic, and
of course, it's more cerebral. Of course.
Yeah. We don't like that in our action movies, KT. We don't like that.
No, and we have a lead male, and we've paid for him, so let's get some scenes.
Yeah, let's get Poe Dameron and Princess Leia's mom, and
you will never hear me say less Oscar Isaac either. So like,
if you're gonna get one dude, and
he's shirtless through most of his appearances.
But he feels very superficial though throughout. Like they do a lot to show you Natalie Portman's character, like Lena, right? Like you know a lot about her motivation.
Mm-hmm.
You know that she, she loved her husband, but that's almost incidental. She's curious. She's she wants to study the cellular part of this, and just happens to line up exactly with what her specialty is. But you feel like you know a lot about her, and she's kind of a fierce character. I don't feel like you know a lot about like Oscar Isaac, besides the fact that he was in the military and like. Was her like dumb It's kind of fucking dumb, like bimbo kind of husband. Like,
Oh, absolutely. I think he's definitely given more
Himbo. I guess
agency in the
Himbo-
book than
Himbo
in the
kinda
movie. Yeah, like he just does this thing. And multiple times in the movie she says, like, I just want to be where he is. I just want to know what happened to him. And it's like, is that a good motivation? I mean, but then again, of course, all of the characters are flawed and they have that self-destruction thing. So that could be purposely what Alex Garland was going for.
Well, I feel like, so I feel like her character has got that, but I don't think any of the rest of them do. You know, I mean, Jennifer Jason Leigh especially, like, it's sort of like, I think our character's, you know, probably the one that's like, wow, I wish I actually knew a little more about that character. But, you know, and then...
It does feel like she kind of has this feeling where, like, so she finally goes in because she has cancer and she knows she's going to die. She doesn't really go in with the rest of the group, letting them know the level to which she doesn't expect to come back.
No,
And,
not at all, but she doesn't feel like she needs
sinister,
to.
You know?
Well, sure.
But I mean, that character feels very sinister too, right? Like it feels like throughout the movie she has another motivation, and then you find out, well, the other motivation is that she's just not coming back. But like,
it's
you do feel like that you're gonna find out she lied about something. You're gonna find out that she has another motivation. Like they're talking about agendas when they're, you know, like she's like, is that really why you're going in? And she's like, no, that's not really why. But she doesn't really comment on it past there. And I just feel like the whole movie, like you're expecting her to have some kind of darker motivation or to be working with the Shimmer in some way to like feed the people too. Like, I don't know. Like, I think that's just Jennifer Jason Leigh's like being really good at acting that you can't really quite.
And you're picking up on what the character was in the book. All of those things that you said you felt, those are true. The psychiatrist uses hypnosis to be sinister and is working with the Southern Reach government. Like, these are all of
there's
these
nothing more
kind
sinister than hypnosis given by a psychiatrist.
to make them do stuff.
Can I
that gets
refer
them
to you
killed.
to our song "Criminal Hypnosis" on Adult Prom, available now, neutronfriends.bandcamp.com. Thank you.
So yeah, I definitely think that would come through in even this version of the character. And he's gone.
But I think that he's like, I'm out of here. I can't believe she said that.
Mic drop, bam! No, he made his point and he's out.
No, I mean, but it's also like, what I like about it is that it doesn't feel the need to make a big deal of it either. Like she can be complicated. Like, we wouldn't think twice as a society, not that as a society we're thinking about Annihilation the movie, but we wouldn't think twice about like if it was like, you know, who would be the Jennifer Jason Leigh stand-in? Kurt Russell, right? You know, we wouldn't even think twice about like her being kind of like a hard case and sort of like not really like sharing or divulging anything and having her own agenda. It would sort of be like, oh, that guy's a dick, you know. And I like it. I think it's refreshing. I think it's refreshing that it wasn't the focus either. I also think that not everyone gets a full story, and that's fine because when you give everyone a full story, again, caveat, I did not read the book, but like it just feels like there was too much plot from when I look at like you look at something like what makes a good screenplay, right? It's like that's a lot of plot, and if you're gonna do that, cool, but that's a very different kind of movie. And I think he was very much going for a vibe movie, and that's where the stalker comparisons come in. I think charitably, because look, if someone's like, hey, this is like a cross between like RoboCop and like this Ingmar Bergman movie, I'm gonna be like, great, that sounds awesome. It's like a product for me. I'm totally down. And Stalker's like, you know, one of the great examples of like just the all-time vibe movie. I think I called it like the best game of Let's Pretend ever on that episode, because like you see almost nothing, and it's all in the performance and all in the vibe, and also everyone got poisoned.
It's definitely got a Waiting for Godot vibe. Like there's a version of it that could easily be theatrical.
Absolutely.
I don't want to discredit or feel like I'm saying this isn't a good movie. I'm just saying like there are definitely levels to which you're going to pick up on what was left from the original. It's hard to frame this in a question of, is this a really feminist movie, when I feel like so much of the main character's impetus is to find out what happened to her husband.
I don't think it's a feminist movie. I think it's just I think it just has a mostly female cast that has agency.
And it passes
It's
the
an action
Bechdel test. It does.
It certainly
And-
does. Yes.
And with an action, like to go back to what you said, not every character can have a backstory. With an action movie, you're gonna have your red shirts. You're gonna have your people that die really. And the book does this too. The book has characters that are like, yeah, they fucking died right away. I don't want to learn shit about them. So yeah, I definitely think
you give them
that's
just enough too to care. Like I'm a week away from retiring, and that's like sure.
Exactly. I'm about to be a granddad.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's guy I mentioned her name earlier, Tuva Novotny's character, Cass. That's like her whole deal, right? It's just like she's basically there to be like, well, actually, like the whole thing, like talking about, Tessa Thompson's character, like everyone's got like that's as much backstory as you get. Is there's a whole like world behind each one of these women, as there is with everyone, and that the Natalie Portman character is so kind of caught up in like what she's seeing. She's only like kind of seeing the surface level on it, and that's about as far as it goes with it. And the rest of it's like, cool. Here comes the alligator. Here comes the bear. Here comes.
Yeah. It's still ultimately a movie. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it gives you just enough that when you think about, okay, why was Tessa Thompson's character cutting herself, right? Well, she's like trying to like feel something, right? Okay, well that's interesting because if you think about how she reacts to, like when they see the incredible topiary of the humans, and it'd be like, oh well, it's this is human genomic material, and this like and that like makes you sort of re-examine everything you've been seeing so far, because you've been looking at it as like, this is just a pure invasive entity that's like, why is it doing these things, and then it's like, oh no, this is something entirely different. And that's the first step towards like when you get to the twinning scene and you see like the harrowing kind of like, especially if you don't know what's going on, that whole scene of like the double eventually like taking on her form when she touches her and puts the phosphorus grenade in the hand. Like, it's crazy because you're like, again, it almost would be like if it was just flat out attacking her, it would almost be like comforting.
Yeah,
because you can understand that.
And I think to speak again to the great sound design, did anybody clock how silent that the whole scene is? Like maybe 3 or 5 minutes long, and it's silent with a couple of like strings or key bits, but there's no dialogue.
Like sounds like
it sounds like a job I would want to do to score this movie, by the way.
They also have like that cool ocular it like looks at her first, and you get to see her, like you get to see her through the oculus of this alien, whatever it is, and then it takes the form of a humanoid, which would imply that's not even like the form, it's not like it's not running around with that form, right? Like that's just kind of the form that it's in the process of building up, and whatever it's doing with the genes, the DNA, and combining everything together within the shimmer, like it's in the process of kind of almost like downloading the image of her.
And which goes like a lot quicker when she actually makes like flesh to whatever contact with it, right? But like just contact. Yeah, but just like the thing where like, she's trying to get out and it pins her up against the door. Crazy, right? Yeah. Like that's a crazy scene. She's like, what's happening?
There's some palpably good body acting in that scene.
Yeah. Yes. No, it's like what I think people try to get out of stuff like interpretive dance and things like that.
Yes.
And it's KT, I don't know if you were on when we were talking about this. It's the same it's the same actress from Ex Machina. It's the same
Sonoya Mizuno. She's in Devs too. She's like all of almost all of Alex Garland's thing, because the only there's only one woman in Men, which is the point. And I can't
believe they added a woman to Men. The 23rd, the 21st century. Everything's gone woke. They've added a woman to Men now.
Well. Almost, I guess it's almost a spoiler alert, but like, yeah.
I almost just in the 23rd century, by the way.
Other than Jesse Buckley, who's the main character, there's almost only one dude too. But anyway, that's a bit of a spoiler.
So this is one last clip. This is talking about shooting Area X and the Shimmer and how they decided to shoot it in. It's so funny that it's England. Like, I don't know. There's just something so funny about being like, we need to like.
Northern Florida.
We need to recreate our own Florida. You know what we should do? We could go to England, and then
I swear to God, no, it's coastal Maine.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, no, what makes it also funny is that Jeff VanderMeer was like, wow, it looks just like North Florida. Like, I got the vibes for the whole movie, and it's like, but it's England.
3, 2, 1, up. I think if you can shoot in sequence, it helps everybody. You keep a different kind of track of the story and where characters are within the story and where you are within the story and where your colleagues are within the story. I sometimes think that the biggest issues on film sets often reduce to communication, and on the films I work on, there is a very open level of communication. There's a lot of talk between all the departments, and hierarchy structures are very deliberately broken down, and it's a collective. And that could make things rather kind of messy, potentially, and complicated and unfocused. But one of the ways you can mitigate that is if you shoot in sequence, everybody kind of understands where they are.
And our story allowed us to that. Often you're chopping and changing backwards and forwards between time and place, but we go in pretty much, a straight line of time. And it has so many advantages in the production of the film, in the design process, but I think in the drama, for the actors, for the people making it, it's so much easier to progress, one step at a time. And if we all start to believe, this is our general mantra for us in design as well, if we believe what's on screen and we believe that, then that translates straight to the actors, and that will translate to the audience, hopefully. So I think many crews would love to do it in order, but it's not always possible.
We thought a little bit, very, very briefly, about shooting in Louisiana for the landscape, but it turned out there were many very, very solid reasons why it made sense to shoot in the UK.
54 Alpha, take 4. Thank you, Jeff.
So we are standing at entering the swamp in America, although we're actually in Windsor in England, don't tell anyone. So Windsor Great Park is part of the Crown Estate. Windsor Castle is only a couple of miles down the road. That's where the Queen lives. So effectively we're in her back garden. So when you think of Florida swamps, you don't necessarily think of the English Queen and her estate, but as it happened, when the guys first visited and looked at the pond as it was then, Alex said you can carry on scouting, you can look at other places if you wish, but this is where we'll shoot. It's perfect. We've dressed it with the little stumps, as you see, in the Spanish hanging moss, and created an immaculate illusion of a swamp in Florida.
So we've made 20-foot ball cypresses which have a cone base. The things we noticed there were, for that sort of area, were cone-based trees and what we call knuckles and knees, it's a root system that grows out of the swamp areas to get, I guess, oxygen. So we replicated about 100 of those out of polystyrene, painted them, and we found this sort of knee-deep area, and we popped them in with our trees. And hopefully, we feel it looks pretty spot on to that area. Right next to it, we have a pond area, which allowed us to put in the next beat of their trip, where they see a fishing hut.
Michelle Day, who is part of the production design team, turned up with an image that she'd taken on a recce to Louisiana, a photograph of a hut that had half sunk into the swamp. Immediately it speaks of something different, something broken. And so we built the whole scene around the photo that Mish took. Because if the hut is sunk at that angle, then the water's going to be at that angle. And if the water's at that angle, then whatever's in the water can be hidden in that space. And we've been outside in this big forest with these beautiful, strange prismatic light effects and mutant flowers clustered around this thing. But now we can be in a dark and claustrophobic space. And so it all just keeps building outwards.
I think recreating these things for real was hard, but the way every set has been pushed to be this slightly surreal or other type of thing as well, this shimmer and nature being different and crazy and mutated and spliced has been incredible. I loved working in the fishing hut set because they'd done all sorts of things that made you feel that you were properly in the southern states of America, and we have obviously American actresses and we have American people visiting, and they could not believe, no one could believe we were 5 miles from Trafalgar Square, or maybe in our terms 1 mile from the M25.
I feel like this is all like nature do be crazy though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they had to change so much of the set to make it the weird Area X nature that you could have done this, anywhere, because you would have had to change so much anyway.
Yeah.
I'm so surprised the hut was there already to begin with.
Yeah, that is kind of strange.
I think one of the things that kind of makes it work too is if you're actually familiar with the area, because I mean, I've spent my fair share of these swamps of Okefenokee.
Just chilling with Uncle Alligator.
I thought you were going to be like, I hung out around the Queen's Swamp.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure
like, I can't wait to see this
we're
next
familiar with.
Yeah.
But if you watch movies like Excalibur, and there's this other one where a guy has like this lightsaber, there's like a cyclops that he rides around horses with, and has to go save a princess from a giant spider. I can't remember that name of that movie.
I've got you on Excalibur. We'll go with that.
But anyways, they're filmed in the same swamp, and it looks on film different than like going out to Florida. So the extra little additions to the Spanish moss, plus the fact that the trees are just a little bit different from what what you're used to from Florida or Louisiana. It makes perfect sense. That it kind of creates an almost alien-y effect, like it's more than just mutated the trees.
Can I tie in the fact that Excalibur, directed by John Boorman, another movie John Boorman did, Deliverance.
Yes.
Speaking of swamps,
if you get a chance, watch the director commentary of Excalibur and thank me later, because it is hilarious.
I was going to ask him to watch our Deliverance episode with Mark Borchardt.
Well, that's
they can watch that too.
First that, then the Excalibur.
After you're done with that, then watch the Excalibur commentary. That's deep. I don't care for it.
Yeah, let's not have the man bear pig on screen.
Yes. So I guess we have to talk about Al Gore now.
Talk about an inconvenient truth, am I right? Hey,
he's on stage like, well, there's this thing out there called a shimmer,
and it's created the man bear pig. It's half man, half bear, half pig.
The climate's changing fast in the shimmer.
You know what else is changing fast is the clock as we wind down to this episode. So we should probably do Letterboxd one-liners, right?
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So Letterboxd, of course, is a place for film lovers to talk at with and to each other. It's a social media site for people that love cinema. And, of course, this is a bottom-up democracy. Everyone gets to have their say, not just the Siskel's and Eberts of the world. Everyone gets to opine, chime in.
Not just Uncle Alligator either, but
not just Uncle Alligator. Uncle Alligator,
like crazy.
I bet there's like there's like a million Twitter clones. There's probably a Letterboxd clone that's literally just Uncle Alligator's thoughts. But I don't know.
I've always had like the thought, like the second you make a joke or something, like a Twitter account pops up, like that's like that's like a clone future or whatever. You're like Uncle Alligator, and then there's like 6 of them.
Oh man, I was so mad when the fast food restaurant Rex's had a children's character called Uncle Alligator. I'm just like, stole.
You'll be hearing from my lawyers.
Yeah, when I was 11,
of course,
that ticked me off.
All right. I'm still trying to intro the bit, people. Come on. Yeah. So everyone gets to have their say, right? Everyone gets to have their say. That's the point of it. It's a nice resource for that. Resource for other things, keeping track of movies you want to see. Look, there's some Saul Bass thing that I forgot I put on my watch list forever ago that Andy referenced earlier in the group chat. I'm like, oh yeah, I should check that out. And all of this is best expressed for a purpose of this bit very succinctly. You don't want to do like super long form where everyone's like ADD riddled and everything. So these are the Letterboxd one-liners that we were going to react to, as we always do, on this show, Movie Night Extravaganza, for the film Annihilation. Let's go. They really just left their bags everywhere.
Whatever happened to the fucking carry out? Like you bring it in. You carry it out, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Leave only footsteps, take only memories.
It's still a state park. It's still a national park.
That's great. I didn't notice that. That's a real apt thing to say.
Ideal shroom location.
No, contradict that. Horrible shroom location. Regular forest will look like this. Do not go. That's like the first time I ever took shrooms with a friend. He was watching Fantastic Beasts and like where to find them. This is no.
What if it would probably just look like a regular forest if you took shrooms there.
It's just
This sucks. It's just the forest.
They're like everything's changing. You're like, no, it's
No.
not.
Isn't.
Everything looks exactly the fucking same.
It's boring.
dude.
These shrooms aren't even working, man.
Padme Amidala takes peyote. You know what I like. What I like is that a lot of these that I pull too, I was like, some of the funniest ones are like no likes or like 2 likes. You know, it's like
Aw.
that's one of the things I like about this bit. We get to showcase, you know,
Lost gems.
Padme Amidala takes peyote.
That's the worst Vice show.
Oh my god.
Padme Amidala takes peyote.
Didn't even make it a season. The fuck did I just watch? The hell yes.
That before, like the first time I watched it the other day, like it was during the day, and I was like, I wasn't capable of paying attention as much as I wanted to, and that's how I felt at the end of it. I was like, this is like somebody made a horror movie about what happens when you stare at a kaleidoscope for too long. Like that's
Yeah. I feel like this could also be a review of Stalker.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's 100%. Yeah. Couples have become weird ass hybrids of an alien force and themselves together stay together.
Well, sometimes you see these couples and like they spend too much time together. They're morphing into like, you know, one person. Like it's almost like they're mutating. You know what I mean? Like
This is a good question. At the end, do you perceive like his eyes glow and we know he's not him? Her eyes glow. What do you think that means?
she's been changed by the genetic damage she's gotten is still the same, right? Like, and I was reading somebody else talking about the ending or whatever, and they were like, they made the point that like everybody that's been in there kind of you're like a soup of a person, right? Like you're parts of everyone and everything that have been in there too. So when your eyes glow, it's like the eyes of everybody else too. Like you leave the shimmer with everybody else kind of in you. Which you know, it's like an alien gangbang.
So you do stay together.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to stay together in that cell because they're definitely not getting out of that military quarantine.
That's true.
So, you know, I guess it's a good
Well, I
ending
mean,
for
you know,
them.
until Annihilation 2. Annihilated.
Electric Nile Blue.
Yes.
This is the film equivalent of trying to sleep on ecstasy.
Dude, yes. Actually, I don't know if you've ever tried to do that, but you literally can't, and your body still feels the full effect of the fucking ecstasy, and everything kind of everything feels like it's buzzing, like while you're trying to sleep. Like, don't try to sleep on ecstasy. This is that.
Yeah.
This is that.
I was walking down the street the other day, and I heard dance music. Just all of a sudden, I turned to my wife and I go, "Is that dance music, or is the E finally kicking in?"
It's been like a decade and it finally kicks in. You're like, oh, fuck.
It's like, oh.
They weren't talking. They're talking about slow release. They weren't kidding. I like spooky shit. I like weird mindfuck shit. And I like boing noises. This is cinema.
Yeah.
Boing, boing,
If
boing,
you're in
boing.
it for boing noises, sign up.
Peak boing
Yo, but
noises.
this movie versus All Quiet on the Western Front.
No, that's
Annihilation.
You
all the
really
way.
want
No, but
some
I'm not. I'm
bong
saying,
noises.
in
You should
terms
watch
of the
Western.
I'm saying in terms of the bong noises.
Yeah.
This one, I like the boing, 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 boing.
Now, not only does it have the boing noises, but it uses monochrome better.
Yes.
Much like trying to sleep on ecstasy, there's just too many boing noises.
That's Matt McKenzie. He's a friend of mine on Letterboxd. So there you go. Follow him. Me and 7 other people like that one. Noises from this movie live in my head rent free.
The craziest one is when she's staring into the Oculus, and we're looking back out at her from the Oculus, which is an insane fucking shot. Like, there's a couple seconds where we're inside of the fucking Oculus thing, looking up at Natalie Portman. Which, if I wasn't an Oculus thing, you know, you could do worse.
You could do a lot
Just
worse,
like we're inside the alligator right now.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I like that shot. Well, that shot foreshadows, I feel like.
I'm doing this bit from inside the alligator. Yeah.
That's the British albino alligator. So really, it is like a member of the royal family.
and this is from Greg. Greg's another.
And it also has fucked up teeth like the royal family.
Exactly.
I mean, Prince Charles
The
has like
political
human teeth.
statement.
Yeah, but then his-
It has shark teeth, which is like weird. Like, where's the shark from? Well, I guess it is on the shoreline, I guess. So maybe like a shark swam into the fucking bayou because that happens like the estuary or whatever, like a bull shark. I don't know.
The
Maybe
House
I'm
of
overthinking
Windsor is going to be canceling their Patreon subscription after this episode, by the way.
Like,
Wait, did you cancel after we killed the queen?
First
No,
you kill
actually,
Mummy.
strangely, they didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, first you kill Mummy, and now you're making fun of our swamp inbreeding. Well, I am just going to take my $5 subscription. We used to be a proper Patreon.
Will this be on the AP bio exam?
I mean, Hawk's genes. Well, she's like, this is the Hawk's gene, and it's the one that it's the one that shapes your whole body. Which I like. The science in this is apparently immaculate, which is kind of insane. Immaculate science.
The last 15 minutes of this movie are scarier than anything I've ever seen in my entire life.
Dude, I feel like as a kid, like parents would always say shit like, "Oh, don't look into that kaleidoscope for too long." And that, like, watching the end of the last 15 minutes of this movie, it feels like what they must have been thinking is going to happen if you stare at the kaleidoscope. Not like for like, don't stare into that thing too long. Your eyes are gonna have problems when you're older for looking too much into the thing. And
Exactly.
It's like
A bit like looking into the mouth of madness.
A little bit. All roads lead back to HP. Those are the Letterboxd one-liners for Annihilation. Please follow the show. That's the Shimmer Improved Florida, the shimmering over there. I can't do this.
I like the idea of just you're voting on a ballot, and one of them is like the Shimmer D.
The Shimmer, yeah, exactly. The Shimmer won in a walk. I didn't. It was a front swamp campaign. Yeah, it's crazy. Follow Movie Night Extra. That's your host, Forrest Miller, over there. I am the Crystal Plant Lighthouse Mojo Dojo Denizen, Conan Neutron, the one and only, on Letterboxd, doing all the highbrow, midbrow, the populist fare. Follow me along for the Criterion Challenge.
Ron DeSantis is going, stop shimmering.
J. Andrew, Darabont's Geostorm World is the rhythm of the dividing pair. He's also watching all the weirdest stuff, so you don't have to. Or maybe so you do. Like, I don't know. It's enough for me to judge. He's watching all the intellectual property mans and all the attendant things. It'll never not be. If I see IP man, it's intellectual property man.
Yeah,
I'm
I was
sorry.
not
That's
intending to
just
watch
what it
another
is.
one of those films. I seriously was not. Just like halfway through, like the movie's like, oh crap.
Why not just call it One Punch Man? Anyway, whatever. But
One
that's
Punch
neither here
Man
nor
did
there.
not teach Bruce Lee.
I don't care about the answer. That's fine.
Okay.
KT, the cinematologist down there, little deadly creature. Yes, absolutely. Is also she's on Letterboxd. She's on Letterboxd as a actress as well. So she's riding that line. She's not going to talk that much trash.
Yeah.
Get at least work.
Ooh, this movie was good.
Oh yeah, it was great.
That's a bit. If you look at Jeff VanderMeer's response to the adaptation of his film, he kind of has a certain air of that, like, I like when people pay me money for my books, and I am not going to say anything bad to anyone on camera about anything. Yeah.
He's
You know
not
what?
going to Stephen King it.
Yeah, that's a reasonable response.
Mhm.
I think so. I think it's a reasonable.
Well, especially if you know the history of Jeff VanderMeer and his wife and Vandermeer's career. This book was the first like mainstream. I mean, because they're part of that like new weird movement, and they put together all these compilations. And,
Well, that was like I said earlier. There's anthologies like there's Weird, the New Weird, like great names for anthologies.
But the first the first touch of like mainstream success that he ever has gotten in his life was this, the book Annihilation. I feel like
People can still read books,
but
they
I
can
feel
like the movie and find the books afterwards.
But I feel like if that's the case, you're not going to want to like shit all over the movie that somebody made of like the first book you've ever had that got mainstream attention. You're gonna be like, I'd like if the second book that I wrote also gets adapted and turned into something and I get money out of that. Like the fuck do you care if if it's faithful or not? Like,
So when you look at stuff about like Alan Moore and how he gets all like upset, and some of his shit is very, very badly adapted, but his righteousness, and you're like, compare that to this, it feels like, oh no, this is a way more reasonable response.
Yeah, the only reason Alan Moore can get away with that is because he's one of the very best.
Yeah.
Like because him like, and there is kind of cool things like him was a Watchman. He took his name off of, and then like everything went to the artist, right?
Yes, which I thought was good.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Darrow needs that money.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Lord knows. But yeah, I think that there is You know what, man? You don't have to like react to everything. You could just be like, you know, hey, cool, glad people like it. By the way, copy's still available. Exit through the gift shop. That's what I would do.
I will be in the. I'll be waiting in the front hall. Copy's still available.
They'll be signed if you feel so inclined.
Surprise! If you liked this movie, there's a whole story unrelated that you can read and be enticed by as well.
Did you
can
like?
also do
Did
it
you
like
like
Neil
Alex,
Gaiman.
Alex
Like-
Garland's Fever Dream? Well, you can read about my fever dream here.
Right, exactly. The OG fever dream.
When Neverwhere premiered in the United States, I was actually at the very first showing. Neil Gaiman introduced himself, and he shat all over the movie, the miniseries, because it looks terrible, and you can see that. And he's a lot more diplomatic in any of his recorded interviews about the thing, but he was so full of vitriol. And it actually makes perfect sense if you've ever read the novel of Neverwhere. He's like, like writing in all capital letters with 6 exclamation points about like his description of Dor, because he felt like she was miscast. He loves the actress, just felt that they completely miscast the character of what he had written initially. And there's a lot of that in the book. And it's like, oh, okay, that explains why the book is written that way. Okay. But like seeing him, introduce it in person, and then like going back and actually watching like the DVD where he's doing the commentary, and he's much more diplomatic about everything. Like he's not making fun of Alfred the Bull. He's like being completely reasonable and understandable about the fact that, bringing a bull to the sewer of London is not a good idea to then put makeup on it.
Why burn your bridges? Just you want to keep working.
No, exactly. But like if you saw him at like in person at that premiere in Boston where there were no camera phones because it was 1999, there was none of that. It was like, you really got to know his feelings on it, and it was not nice.
Oh, sure. Oh yeah. Sherry is on Letterboxd. Yeah, and like you should go follow her, everyone, because
let's do it.
Not everybody follows her, and I feel like we have to support each other on all these sites because I don't know, just because I said so. That's why. Andy, do you want to take us with the plugs?
Yeah, you are watching us on YouTube right now, so please do those YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell, and of course the big ask for everybody's watch the video to the end. That gives you a chance to hear a great Conan Neutron song, and that allows us to be discovered by other movie fans. If you're over on
this
Twitch,
guy. Whoa!
If you're over on Twitch right now, throw us a sub. The big ask over there is if you happen to have an Amazon Prime account, you can subscribe to our show for free. Doesn't cost you anything, but really does help us out. So thank you if you're able to help us in any of those ways. I'm thanking you now.
Hey, somebody say hit that bell because
hit that bell. Exactly. So we can have a reaction like this.
We really don't like the podcast audience today.
No,
you're listening. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Twitch, if you're what am I doing? Yeah, we already did Twitch. If you are on social media, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter.
Hey Andy, when you got confused, you look like this.
It's the monkey always throwing me off. But yeah, you can find us on Twitter or X now, whatever the hell they call that. A Blue Sky, Instagram, and of course Facebook. So please find us over there. You can get previews of art. You can see on occasion. You can see
when do we remember?
Yeah, when do we remember? But you can communicate with us, find out what's going on, because who knows what we're going to post next.
You can communicate with us, but don't give us a
exactly. That's right.
Also, we have a Patreon. The Patreon actually is money that goes straight to us to help us fund this program that you're watching.
Yeah,
it goes right into my arm.
And most of it goes to hosting the podcast, the audio listeners that we've been shitting on all day, and but
just depriving them of essential experiences. It's like when you're a live album and everyone's clapping for a thing you can't see. It's like I can't see that. It's a record.
Yeah, we want you to watch live with us on YouTube and be in the comments.
Exactly.
Some bands like, oh, I hope you're seeing this right now. It's crazy out here. This has never happened before.
Everyone starts laughing. What are they laughing at? I don't know. It's a live record. All right.
It's a giant inflatable.
Exactly.
But
Sorry, Andy,
the
go ahead.
nice thing about the Patreon is that you have access to all of our after parties forever. So
After party
party
forever.
Uh,
Okay, that's enough.
Ah.
We're way out of practice on that.
yeah.
Were we ever really in practice on that?
No.
I never know what's
That's the
happening,
joke.
so I'm just here.
we need to do band rehearsal to get the after party.
Yes. yeah. Conan's got the little like
yeah.
Get the right
1, 2, 3, 4.
With Kristina not here tonight, we hope she joins us next time. But sadly, she wasn't able to be here. But I do want to shout out. She does have her Patreon, so if you want to see more Kristina, go over there. Support.
She's got a
Kristina.
Kofi Anon. She doesn't have a Patreon.
I thought she got
Is
her
it Patreon
Patreon
still?
back.
Oh, I don't know.
She could be.
Yeah, she put up her Patreon.
Oh, okay. Well,
So yeah, I'm directing people over to her Patreon.
all right. Let them.
And
Cosmopolitics.
I should also say that me and Kristina are going to be on the Power Report with Dan from the Internet on Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, I think. We're going to be on there, and we're going to be talking about the Trump indictments. I guess I think that's the goal. I don't know. I don't know why we're the reigning experts on the Trump indictments, but I'm really happy that Dan from the Internet invited us to come on.
Exciting.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
It's also be same night as me, but it's at least it starts an hour later. So.
Yes. So Conan, speaking of you,
Yes.
you have who's coming on this week for Protonic Reversal?
So I just did a special episode with Mr. Flies last week, which is up now for Patreons.
They're fun.
And you saw them at Caterwall. That's right. Forgot about that. Talk about their new upcoming tour with Melvins and Boris. I got Mike Hard of Thrall and Godbellies coming back on Thursday. He's a fascinating fella. Definitely big revivalist preacher energy to what he does. Very interesting cat. So he's going to be on Thursday. You can catch an hour of that before you go over see Kristina and Forrest on Dan's show, I guess. And then I got an exclusive on Sunday. I'm actually doing 3 episodes this week. It's crazy. With all 3 members of Steel Pole Bathtub, which is very, very exciting because they've never done an appearance in the internet age. All 3 of them together. And one of the reasons why is to talk about their playing a show for Emo's whatever year anniversary it is in Texas, and just socializing that and talking about all of their records and stuff, and the fact that anyone that knows that band, Darren Morex is now Dorothy Kent. So we're going to be talking about that as well. And just get me excited. It's one of my all-time favorite bands. So I've never had all 3 of them. I don't think they've ever done a joint appearance, so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've heard them, so that sounds great.
Still great. Mike, of course, better known for movie fans as the visual effects director for all of the Lord of the Rings movies.
Cool.
Good work there. And you can support all that too over at Conan's Patreon. Go to you know what? I don't have it written down. Shit.
It's patreon.com Protonic Reversal. It's not that
okay.
hard. It's just the name of the show. Yeah.
I don't know. I just had a panic
save.
attack. Yes. Well, it could.
It's literally behind me, dude.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it could have been patreon.com. Neutron Friends, like it is neutronfriends.bandcamp.com, which is where you can get all your Conan Neutron music.
Yeah. The name of the band is Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends, of course.
Yes.
And we have a new record out that's up for pre-orders called Adult Prom. It's a split record with Lung. It looks like this. The blue is their van. The red is my van. These are
I've been in that van before.
You have been in that van before, yeah. And we're very excited that we
You
finally
made it
get
out
to
alive.
I left my track jacket in that van.
You did. I still got to send that back to you. Right? We're very excited to have this record out in the world. You can pre-order LPs, pre-order CDs digitally. You can do it right now. It's not streaming anywhere else. This is the time and place where if you're going to buy music, please buy music because it's going to both bands and a great independent record label called Learning Curve Records that also is half a Caterwall. So there you go.
Very cool.
And it's called Adult Prom, and I could get into the reasons why, but it's whatever. That's that classic after party material.
It's the prom for adults. What else do you need to?
We're also. I guess I wasn't supposed to mention this, but I mentioned it last show, so I'm going to keep mentioning it. That we're going on tour, and it's a West Coast tour. So
Yay.
If you're on the West Coast, come see us, and us in this case being Conan Neutron, The Secret Friends, and Lung. Tempe, Arizona.
Is that Samurai going to be on?
The Samurai. This is our driver. Yeah. Tempe, Arizona, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Sacramento, Reno, Eugene, Portland. The crawl was covering it up, but Seattle and Bellingham as well. So that'll be October.
Cool.
And Tokyo.
And that's one Andrew World, if you can't tell, made that poster because it's like, why is there a samurai? Why not? Okay.
Yeah.
Why not is the answer. Why not?
He really wanted to draw samurai.
He wanted to draw samurai people. That's why I was like, no one was mad at it. I was like, all right.
No, it's fine. It's cool.
No, and he's like, look, I'll do work for you, but I'm gonna be doing something anyway, and you better, it's like sometimes people like there'll be a tattoo artist that's like, hey, you get money off this tattoo, but I have to pick the tattoo.
Yeah,
for $20. It's a giant dick on your arm. I'm not gonna, but you don't get to guess that.
I don't know if it's a Von Bodie. I mean, not a Von Bodie, a Mark Bodie. Tattoo that's discounted. I'd go for that, even if it is a
even
giant
if it's still a dick.
It's...
Okay.
Hey, have you seen his mushrooms?
But it's a Banksy. Okay.
Yeah, different strokes, different folks.
Sounds like Eminem's latest album, Still a Dick. Like.
Well, don't buy that record. Buy my record. I put it in the comments.
No, much better.
Correct.
Spent on Conan.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Spend your money on Conan. And of course,
I don't see dick from this Patreon, just from mine.
Well, while you're doing things, go to Letterboxd and review all of KT's movies. Give them like 5 stars. Say something really nice about her.
Yeah. Go watch the movie. It's great.
Even should we all of them, even Ted 2?
Oh God, don't watch Ted 2. Sometimes I forget I'm in a movie because I do a lot of background. I'll be watching a movie, but like, this movie fucking sucks. That's me. Damn it.
First of all, I have seen Ted 2, so that ship's already sailed. Secondly, I finally watched.
I didn't warn you.
I watched Her, which I had not seen when it came out, and I forgot that my ex-bandmate's wife Claudia, she's an actress and she's in a lot of things. And I forgot that she's in the really awkward. She's the waitress in that really awkward scene, and I was like, "Oh shit, that's Claudia!" And then like watching this like on a plane, I'm like, "Oh wow, this is a really weird experience." I forgot about
Surprise
this.
person I know, yeah.
Yeah, like I know who that is because I've seen her show up in like some streaming show or something, playing a doctor or something. I was like, "Oh, that's Claudia, cool." She's in an episode of The Office, which is pretty cool,
Awesome.
But yeah, I totally was like, I was really immersed in this movie, and I was like, "Oh shit, that's Ben's wife." That's wild because it's been so long because that movie came out so long ago. I heard about it when she did it, and then it was like that was like 10 years ago or something. I just never watched it for some reason. Anyway,
I watched it in college.
that's a story about how I saw a movie that had someone I knew in it. Great, one for the ages.
These are the anecdotal gems that hold this fucking show together, Conan. Okay.
It's Conan watches Her for the first time and Uncle Alligator.
Yeah,
exactly.
This is the IP we need to make T-shirts to sell in the Spotify or Shopify site.
Weirder the better.
What is multi tangent of madness or whatever? It's like,
tangent of madness.
Or we could just start using Uncle Alligator to get people's bank account numbers and
he's
like a Nigerian prince scam.
He kind of colors outside the lines, if you know what I mean. That Uncle Alligator.
Give us your parents' your bank account number. Yeah.
Maybe that's the name of the character that I came up with last episode where I was like doing like the big studio exec. Yeah, it's a shock, but he's a cyborg.
That's Uncle Alligator material, is right. Yeah.
Classic Uncle Alligator material.
Cutting up fucking a bunch of just like swamp blow. It's a shark.
But he's a cyborg and he's on the cocaine.
Like me, Uncle Alligator.
It's relatable, you see.
Film it today. Oh man.
What are we on, Andy?
Yeah, we were talking about KT.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, go on the Letterboxd, watch a movie, give it a number.
Yeah.
Go on the Letterboxd.
Go on the Letterboxd, watch a movie, give it a number.
Uncle Alligator.
Uncle Alligator has spoken.
I'm gonna watch Ted 2 now, and that's my review.
It's gonna make more sense than most of them. I saw the reviews for that movie. Hey.
But also, people need to subscribe to what's that podcast again?
Subscribe to Opinions May Vary. The podcast itself, and the entity in which they were like doing reviews of comic book stuff, movies, and things like that, has stopped. But they are the umbrella that is producing the show Starwell Foundation, which we talked about a little bit in the beginning of the show, in which I play 2 characters, so you can hear me doing some voice acting. I'll be playing Gansfield, the Russian telekinetic villain. And also, I'll be one of the podcast hosts for the podcast inside the show called How Crime, in which you get to hear my delicious dish voice, that kind of like NPR voice.
Nice.
But it's a really fun show. Episode 1 just came out. You can listen to it on any kind of, Apple, any kind of podcast site that has, just Google Opinion May Vary, and it'll be the last episode that came out. If you like all that, there's also a pilot series that you can find by Googling Starwell Foundation or Opinions May Vary, and you can get there as well. So there's a lot of fun stuff to listen to.
Don't you want to be a star? Sign up for the Starwell Foundation.
Uncle Alligator's gonna make you a star, son.
And hopefully after they hear this, in season 2, I'll get to play Uncle Alligator's voice.
I think
I'm hoping.
the time has come for a female Uncle Alligator.
Yeah.
They made Uncle Alligator woke. Sorry.
I can't believe this bullshit.
Uncle Alligator is supposed to be a man. It's supposed to be a man, and you're supposed to. It's the creepiest man possible. And the fact that it's a woman now. All right, they're trying to shove this down our throats.
But what else we got, Andy? Anything?
Yeah, I was just gonna one last thing. If you want more of me, I'm gonna be on the Letter Hack podcast tomorrow.
Oh, that's right. That's tomorrow, right? Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So he's gonna draw me. Maybe I'll draw him. We'll open up a space.
I've wanted to see you guys draw each other at the same time. Like, I've always wanted to watch that happen.
Yeah, we'll either end the world or like Michael Brooks will come back from an alternate timeline.
he's like, oh, that was crazy. It's like, how the
I'm dead here? That's wild.
Uncle Alligator.
There you go, Uncle Alligator. I was gonna say, never have I pined for more Uncle Alligator material. Okay.
Final thoughts?
Yeah, KT. Final
for the love of fuck, yes.
I guess my final thought is
Blah, 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 blah.
Wah, wah. Well, I said this earlier. Blah, 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 blah.
Furthermore,
wah. No, if you watch this and you liked it, I really urge you to read the book. It's not quite something that you can put into words how very creepy and upsetting the book is as well. And it's just kind of like more material to consume. If you're one of those people where it's like one or the other, this is a very rare occasion in which I will honestly say, read the book, don't see the movie. Because I do earnestly feel like the book is tangibly better. But watch the movie, then read the book. Just get more media in your life.
There you go.
Get more media in your life.
You want more media? I got it in spades, kid.
You're capitalist in a society. Consume your medium today.
Exactly. Uncle Alligator has spoken.
We got to make them buy Barbies. How do we get them? How do we make them buy Barbies? We got to make a movie about Barbies.
We need to be cool. All the kids need to be vibing on it, whatever that means.
No cap.
No cap. All right, Conan, final thoughts.
Yeah, this is low-key Alex Garland's Stalker, Aliens, Jurassic Park, and the Abyss mashup. And if you sounds like that's for you, then dive in. I really enjoyed it. I think the visuals are very breathtaking. I think it's some great performances here. The last 20, 25 minutes are just insane, and I mean that as a compliment. I don't think it's the kind of movie for everybody, but I appreciate the huge swings it took. I think it's very bold and beautiful. There's a few tropes, but the world building is so intense, vital, and interesting, and you just rarely see that in films like this. And the moodiness is something to behold as well. And I think it's a genuinely unique and interesting film, and I shouldn't have waited so long to watch it the first time, but that second watch I actually appreciated it even more. So it holds up for repeat viewings for me.
Word. Andy, final thoughts.
I'm glad that this is the less horny version of Phase 4, because Phase 4, I think the ants are narrating it, and they're like, yeah, these people are going to bang and create the new humans that are going to populate the Earth. So sorry to ruin the end of that movie, but...
A spoiler alert, damn it, no!
Spoiler alert for a completely unrelated movie.
But however,
these people are gonna bang
they're-
and they're gonna create the new human.
They ain't see, but they're horny. They're all horned up.
There is a
I wasn't even listening. Is that what the plot of it is? I don't care, by the way. But
no, there's a lot of like yes, there's Stalker, Jurassic Park. But
Here's
phase
the
4,
trick,
I think.
right? It's the 4th phase. You ask where the first 3. Shut up, they're banging.
Nobody cares.
I don't even think they cover that in the narration.
Oh, okay. Well, let the record show. ...
I know. I may have to rewatch the movie because it's been a little
This
while.
sounds like something that's like the Jonathan Siegel movie, Jonathan Living Seagull, where it's all footage of seagulls, but that it's narrated over as if they have a consciousness. Is that what you're describing?
No.
with ants?
They let Saul Bass. The famous graphic designer who did like all the Hitchcock title sequences and posters.
Yeah.
Hitchcock, that was a filmmaker. Let me tell you.
They let him direct a movie, and the movie that he directed.
I was on the cocaine at the time. I don't understand why I did it either.
Came down to Earth and made ants super smart that then manipulated the DNA of humans.
Oh, I
And
thought
the
you were
whole
like- I
thing
thought
is
you were
about the
like
trap
ants,
of trying
like
to capture
uncles
the
and
two
ants.
humans that were going to be the new Adam and Eve.
Like Uncle Alligator. Okay, so your final thoughts are about a totally unrelated movie. Got it.
But yeah, I'm just saying it's a less
Again,
horny
for the
version.
second week in a row.
Yeah. So, if you watched that movie and you're like, damn it, I wish I could get this movie, but without all the ant horniness, then you should see Annihilation.
There you go. Problem solved.
Yes.
Everyone's a winner, baby.
Yeah.
The ants are
Somebody
horny,
out
and
there
even the
is like,
uncles aren't feeling it.
you know what? I can't show this to my kids, all this ant horniness.
I feel like it's too much.
I mean, it's
over the
rated
top.
PG, but it's just ant horniness all the time.
That's just because
Well,
there's no
my-
cursing, and that's what's wrong with the whole rating system.
My final thought is that the Shimmer did nothing wrong. Free the Shimmer. It was racial profiling.